Possible storm and 17 today with the 6 o'clock news. I'm Mel Usher.
FIVEaa Extra is a registered NDIS provider, so let them support you in achieving your goals. FIVEaAextra.com.
The number of COVID exposure sites in SA is now officially 3. The On The Run at the Motorsport Park at Tailem Bend was confirmed as a location of concern last night. Anyone who was there between 7:20 and 8:15am on Friday, July 9 is required to get tested and isolate. Meantime, new testing requirements are now required for people arriving in South Australia from Greater Melbourne. The changes came into force at midnight after Victoria recorded a sharp rise in case numbers. Police Commissioner Grant Stevens says travellers are now required to undergo COVID testing.
Anyone coming from the Greater Melbourne area will be required to have a COVID test within 24 hours of arriving in South Australia and must stay away from high-risk locations like nursing homes until they've had a negative result. The other change was requiring freight drivers to produce evidence of a COVID test within 48 hours before arriving in South Australia. So we need those drivers to do the right thing.
Victorians are waking up to tighter restrictions amid fears a fresh COVID outbreak could plunge Melbourne back into lockdown. Late last night, the state government there announced the return of mandatory mask rules for all indoor settings, and an announcement today is expected to impose a cap on home visits and a further tightening of indoor crowd limits. 11 new infections have been reported, linked to the removalists and a family who recently returned from Sydney. Health officials are hoping the impact of Sydney's tougher lockdown rules will be reflected in today's COVID figures. Nine's Clinton Maynard reports.
Experts say it takes at least 5 days for changes in COVID restrictions to have an effect. Last Friday, the lockdown rules were dramatically tightened after the original stay-at-home orders failed to contain Sydney's outbreak. It's hoped infection figures released this morning will start to show the lockdown is working, but Premier Gladys Berejiklian is still expecting to bounce around.
The World Health Organization has registered a 10% increase in global coronavirus infections in the past week. Dr Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says the fight against the virus has intensified thanks to the Delta variant.
The pandemic is not over anywhere. We are experiencing a worsening public health emergency that further threatens lives, livelihoods, and a sound global economic recovery.
A Chinese spy ship has arrived off the coast of Queensland. It will be taking part in Australian military exercises with the US and Japan. Defence Minister Peter Dutton says the surveillance vessel is being closely monitored. South Africa is planning to deploy more soldiers to counter days of looting, arson and violence. Nine's Carrie-Anne Greenbank reports.
Violence and looting continues to spiral out of control in South Africa. 72 people have now died and 1,200 have been arrested. Thousands of soldiers are trying to restore law and order after what started as a protest against the jailing of former President Jacob Zuma descended into indiscriminate looting, with shopping centres ransacked and warehouses set on fire. Amid the chaos, a desperate mother has been forced to throw her baby girl to safety from a burning building. The pair have since been reunited.
Now to FIVEaa Sport.
Get $200 cash back on Bosch washer dryer packages at Adelaide Appliance Gallery, home of Mr Dishwasher.
And it's good morning to Tom Wren.
And a very good morning to you as well, Mel. Let's start with football, and Sydney and GWS will flee Melbourne this morning to avoid Victoria's latest COVID outbreak. The Swans and Giants were due to play in Ballarat, but are heading to Queensland. A location for the match is yet to be confirmed, while the Bulldogs are flying to the Sunshine State 1 day earlier than scheduled ahead of Saturday's game against Gold Coast at Metricon Stadium. Geelong has been given a special exemption to play Fremantle in Perth tonight after WA closed its border to Victoria. At this stage, Port Adelaide is still planning to fly to Melbourne for this weekend's game against St Kilda at Marvel Stadium. AFL boss Gillon McLachlan says the league will continue to adapt to the evolving situation.
I'm worried about every single day of the last 18 months, every case. We've had 4 rounds this year in the men's season, I think 4 in the women's season, that weren't impacted by COVID this year. We are a mass gathering, weekly, multiple state, cross-border business.
Queensland has dashed New South Wales' hopes of a State of Origin clean sweep with a 20-18 win on the Gold Coast last night. The Blues still winning the series though, 2-1. To cricket, and Australia will be playing for some pride when it takes on the West Indies in Game 4 of its T20 series later this morning. The Aussies already 3-0 down in the best-of-5 series. And the NBA finals continue this morning with Milwaukee hoping to square up the series against the Phoenix Suns. They currently trail in the best-of-7 series 2-1, but are playing this game at home. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Audi Solitaire, Metro Dealer of the Year. Visit audisolitaire.com.au.
Showers increasing, a possible storm and 17 today. Showers and windy tomorrow 14. Showers and winds easing Saturday, also 14. Right now it's 12 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Keep on running.
The new 5AA Player app lets you listen to all your favourite 5AA shows, news and podcasts wherever you go. Download it now from the App Store.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
6 after 6, good morning to you. Welcome to Thursday on 5AA Breakfast. Coming up on the program this morning, we're off to the US. We'll catch up with David Woiwod in Los Angeles. We'll talk with Sarah Moran from Girl Geek Academy. There's been a 50% drop-off in girls studying STEM beyond high school. 50% drop-off in an area that I imagine we thought we were making strides in. This is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. At the top of my head, I think is your STEM subjects. Also on the show today, it is a Thursday, so...
5 to 10, out of 10, every time.
Matt Abraham, after 7:30, the Police Commissioner Grant Stevens will join us. There was a press conference late yesterday regarding the potential reintroduction of restrictions today, and in conjunction with an announcement regarding a third exposure site, the removalist Tail and Bend situation. So we'll get the latest from the Commissioner after 8 o'clock. And then after 8:30, we're off to Tokyo. What's it like making the trek from Adelaide to Tokyo to cover the Olympic Games in an environment where there's going to be no fans? There's a national emergency in that country. There's perhaps an emerging one here. Bretton Shakes from Channel 10 will join us after 8:30. David Penberthy, good morning to you.
Good morning, Will. Good morning, listeners. Yep, we've got the Police Commissioner coming on for all the latest thrills and spills, COVID-wise. I didn't want to talk about it. I'll save it till later, eh?
Yeah.
This pesky virus. It's done the drive I used to do. It's gone for an Adelaide Sydney road trip by the look of things. Because just looking at all the spots, so Tail and Bend, I can think of stopping there countless times. Always good getting a proper country sort of truck stop feed. You know, they don't do fast food. They do steak and eggs and things like that. You know, proper meals that give you a bit of ballast for, you know, a good solid 8 hours behind the wheel. And Griffith, another hot spot. Griffith is such a beautiful town. It's a slight deviation. Takes you about an extra 80 k's, 100 k's out of your way, I think. No, not even that far if you're doing Adelaide-Sydney or Sydney-Adelaide. But it's well worth it because Griffith, with its huge Italian community, and it's now particularly driven by fruit picking, it's got an enormous Indian community. You can get some of the best Italian and Indian food anywhere in Australia in Griffith. There's a fantastic Italian restaurant there that's probably comparable, I'd say, to our own Amalfi in Frome Street. It's called La Scala. It's this little restaurant downstairs on the main street that does this superb pizza where instead of using salami, they use capocollo, which is the Italian preserved pork made from the pig's neck. And then they put fresh rocket, parmesan and shaved onion over the top of this piping hot pizza. So COVID's turned up there. And also Gundagai, home of the dog on the tucker box. And I think we can thank these half-wit removalists for all that, can't we? Because it looks like these blokes... How does it take you more than a day to work out how many trucks it was that you were driving?
That's what I'm most fascinated asking Grant Stevens about.
These blokes are covering their own asses, surely, aren't they?
Well, I mean, they didn't.
No language
they didn't
barrier
do anything.
Explains how many trucks you've got.
They didn't do anything wrong, did they?
Un, deux, trois.
You're allowed to be a removalist and cross borders. You're absolutely allowed to do that.
Yeah, they did some things wrong in Victoria.
They
weren't wearing masks.
They weren't wearing masks. They didn't sign in South Australia at places QR code wise. Albeit, it sounds like a lot of people didn't. There were 75 credit card transactions, I think, at the Tail and Bend service station, and 18 QR code check-ins. So either a lot of people went back multiple times and bought stuff, or a lot of people weren't checking in.
Yeah, is that South Aussies, or is that people from out of state passing through?
I wonder. We
no way of finding out.
We haven't got any hard and fast. We figure we're good, and we all base it on anecdotal evidence. We were talking about this yesterday. We seem to do a pretty good job here in South Australia, but that staggered me that you could go to a place and have fewer than 1 in 3 people actually signing in there. I wondered, did you just caught up the situation in Victoria? Do you ever have a moment or a day or a fear that if you ever got embroiled in something like this, you didn't do anything wrong, but you turned up somewhere and, David, you turned out you've had it and you may have spread it, and they go back through and look at your QR code history? There's a guy that was sitting in the MCC on the weekend. We've got at the Geelong Carlton game in the long room. You start getting a real picture of the kind of people that might be involved.
Yeah.
Which is there's nothing wrong with, being at the MCC and going to the footy and all that kind of stuff. But it occurred to me last night, driving around, I made 3 trips to the shops in about 30 minutes whilst cooking because I kept forgetting ingredients. And I just thought, if I was...
What were you making?
It was like, I did a slow-cooked beef mix for burritos, basically.
Yeah, right.
And
what'd you run out of?
Oh, well, then I had to go back to make, what is it, pico de gallo? Gallo?
Pico de gallo,
yeah. And so I made that after the fact, and I kept having to go back. Yeah, that's right. Like
fresh tomato
and then
salsa.
I forgot sour cream. And then I forgot, and I needed an avocado. I literally went, and I was thinking, Grant Stevens, it's not Grant Stevens, some contact tracer would be sitting there going, this person is a complete idiot. And they wouldn't be wrong, but then you'd have to suffer the fact that the whole state and country would go, what was this person doing for the last 30 minutes? Why did they go to the same spot over and over again?
It's really funny. I was talking to my daughter Sophie about this last night because she's 18 and she just did her first ever interstate trip with girlfriends. Her and 2 of her friends. They went to Melbourne, and then it was exquisitely timed because they went there last Thursday, the day we got back from KI, flew out Thursday night, and got back 2 nights ago, just as things are starting to look like they're going pear-shaped in Melbourne. Because if she'd got back after midnight tonight, she'd have to get COVID tested and keep away from aged care and all that sort of stuff. She said exactly the same thing. She said, and she's got no symptoms at all. And she rang last night and she said, Dad, I'm going to go and get a COVID test. I said, why? She said, just because I'd feel terrible if somehow I was part of it. And I was like, you're not going to be part of anything. Yeah. But she's going to do it anyway. But she said, with 2 teenage girls, she said, our day in Melbourne was get up, go for breakfast, maybe then get a takeaway coffee somewhere. She said, some days we went to 40 shops. It's my idea of hell.
Yeah.
They went there to just go shopping and eat.
Yeah, no.
And they went to the art gallery. They did a few other things. But she said easily 40 shops a day at DFOs.
You just don't want the whole world knowing your business, do you? How you like to spend your leisure time.
Mine would be embarrassing.
I think everyone's would be embarrassing.
Mine would be just Goodwood quality meats, Goodwood fresh fruit and veg, maybe the odd trip to Gaganis. Then there'd be, the bottle shop would feature.
My fear.
What do I do?
Beyond
once a fortnight, a dinner in town with my mates.
Beyond idiotic re-trips to Foodland to pick up ingredients that I've forgotten to buy, the other embarrassing conversation QR code-wise I'd have to have would be, so it appears there was no check-ins on Sunday. So where did you go? What do you mean? No, that was...
I didn't see a scanner on the couch.
No. Stavros in Meadows is called in on QR codes. Morning to you, Stavros.
G'day, boys. How are you?
Good,
thanks, mate.
Hey, I heard a couple of weeks ago, this is probably the start of the outbreak in New South Wales, that the government was then asking their residents to QR code. I don't think they made it mandatory, but they certainly sounded like they weren't really pushing it at all for the last, however, 12 months or whatever. And I'm just not surprised and they're having trouble controlling it because no one's been QR or hasn't been made clear that they should be QR coding. So I'm just surprised it's been that long that they had an outbreak.
It's a great point, Stavros. It's an eye-opener when you travel around to the different states at the moment. We've been doing it for way longer than everyone, and it's way more normal here.
Yeah.
In the NT, they've had them for ages, but they've only just made it. It's only just been mandatory for a short period of time.
Well, Soph said even with everything that's happened in Melbourne, she said a lot of places didn't ask for them, and she said because she's there with 2 other girls, both of them South Australian, and like almost all of us here, you instinctively arrive anywhere holding your phone.
Yep.
Where can I scan? And she said they went to a wine bar in the inner city, and they said that they didn't have anything there. You know, this is like, you know, nighttime, people drinking.
Well, it was in Victoria earlier this year, and I presume they've tidied this up. You'd go into different places and they'd have their own QR code system. So they're like, oh, no, that doesn't work with the Vic app. We have our own app. So how many apps? You have to download different apps for different places. It was ludicrous. Roger in Wollonga, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. With the potential enormity of this whole COVID thing, you mentioned earlier that there were X amount of credit card check-ins at the Tail and Ben shop, and there were only X amount of QR check-ins. Why don't the powers that be have the ability to go to the banks and say, listen, please provide us just the phone number of the person that holds this credit card. The police ring them up, or the powers that be ring them up and say, hey, listen, you were there buying something, you didn't check in. You know, how come they haven't got the powers to do that? I know it's a privacy thing, but I think that in the potential enormity of this whole COVID thing.
Especially, Roger, when they use it the other way. Because often, and I often think back to times I've been in places and tried to double-check and cross-check dates. You go back and look for your statement, your bank statement. And they do that as part of the contact tracing process already. But that comes from the perspective of the person who's made that they're trying to track, as opposed to through the bank. So
yeah, the other way around.
Yeah, it happens the other way around.
Yeah.
It's a great point. 8223 You can text us to on the Telstra Store Matt Barker text line. Rob said, Will, it's called writing a shopping list. Works a treat, I find. Yeah, I like to live dangerously.
I hardly use my phone for anything, but I do shopping with some of my phone.
Yeah, me too.
Very easy.
But I forget things off the shopping list. What am I going to say? I don't claim to be good at this.
Do you use cookbooks?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Or just recipes online?
Recipes online.
Yeah.
Guys, I'd suggest the average COVID check-in is 1 in 5 from what I see on the road. That's supermarkets, petrol, etc. From another texter.
Surely not that low.
Another person says, really disappointed in the police commissioner. The South Australian community get a big stick taken to us when these people have not been forthcoming with evidence, didn't check in and didn't wear a mask. This servo is on the way out. Probably not even South Australians.
I don't know why. It's not the police commissioner's fault. It's SA Health who are trying to get to the bottom of where they've been and what they've been up to.
Yeah, we'll put those questions to him after 8 o'clock today when he joins us on 5AA Breakfast.
Schools, councils and businesses all over South Australia choose Leader Computers. For very important reasons. Leader is local and exceptional value. No matter what happens, Leader can be on site to fix your problem. No overseas or interstate call centres to deal with. Plus, Leader Computers is a 100% owned and operated South Australian company offering fast same-day delivery and setup. That's why so many organisations rely on Leader. Google Leader Computers to find your closest Leader reseller.
Are you warm enough this winter? Getting the best out of your space heater? Give Ken a call. It's recommended your space heater is serviced every year. It's part of running a safe and warm home. Give Ken a call. Ken Hall Plumbers. 8364 5855.
Here at 5AA, we're all about supporting local. It all has to go in Dreamland's once-a-year warehouse sale. Save up to 50% off big brand mattresses, ensembles, bed frames, adjustable beds and bedroom furniture at Dreamland.
Get more at Mawson Lakes Volkswagen with great deals on demos right across the range, all ready to drive away. And if you're impressed with our selection of cars, you'll love our service department with next day servicing, complimentary loan cars and breakfast or lunch on us. Why? Because when you're Adelaide's newest Volkswagen dealer, you want to give more. Visit mawsonlakesvw.com.au to see the range online. Mawson Lakes Volkswagen, just a short drive from the city.
CSIRO is looking for individuals to participate in a study assessing the impact of milk lipids on memory and cognition. If you are between 55 and 75 and have noticed some changes in your memory function, are able to consume milk and rice products, and are free to attend sessions over a 16-week period at the CSIRO clinic located at Samri, please register your interest. Participants will be reimbursed for their contribution to scientific research. Email crstudies@csiro.au or call 8305 0615.
60 months interest-free at Harvey Norman. Purchase with 60 months interest-free and receive a bonus gift card up to the value of $500. Shop for laptops, printers, TVs, fridges, washing machines, lounges, beds and more. Minimum financed amount $1,000. Approved applicants only. 60 equal monthly payments. Interest applies if you do not comply with terms and conditions. Fees and exclusions apply. Purchase with 60 months interest-free and receive a bonus gift card valued at up to $500 at Harvey Norman.
Go!
you can trust 9 News is live and local. Weeknights at 5, nightly at 6. 9 News.
The new FIVEaa player app lets you listen to all your favourite FIVEaa shows, news and podcasts wherever you go. Download it now from the App Store.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
20 after 6, Tom Wren shortly. Some news headlines first. Testing requirements have ramped up for people arriving in SA from Greater Melbourne. Travellers now required to undergo a COVID test within 24 hours of arrival and can't visit high-risk locations until receiving a negative result. Freight drivers must now produce evidence of a negative test prior to arriving. Here's Police Commissioner Grant Stevens.
With the Tailem Bend exposure site, the Shell service station and the attached cafe, there were 25 QR check-ins into that facility during the time of concern, yet there were 76 credit card transactions. This is a major factor in our considerations in relation to next steps for South Australian restrictions. We need to be confident that the South Australian community are doing the right thing and using those QR check-ins.
A potential hotel quarantine breach in the city is under investigation. A returned traveller has tested positive, but believe he didn't catch COVID overseas. Caught it possibly in a hotel again. Seems like a good way to get
the third
COVID.
or third time?
Yeah. Officials are looking into whether the virus crossed the corridor from a room opposite. And more
This is the point I made about my fully vaccinated friend from the States. He flew out here. He'd been vaccinated twice in America. He'd tested negative for COVID. He had the paperwork to prove it. And on arrival, they said, stay in this hotel. This was in Sydney at Mascot. And just make sure you keep your balcony window open because we're a little bit worried about the air conditioning. How stupid is that? You put, ostensibly to keep the community safe, you put people into these hotels and they end up doing quite a good job at times of spreading the virus.
Victorians could find out today if the state's restrictions are tightened. The Australian this morning leading with the suggestion they might have a snap 3-day lockdown. 11 new cases were reported yesterday, all linked to the Sydney removalists or the family from Hume. The Age reporting government ministers met last night will meet again today. Restrictions working from home, indoor crowd limits, home visitor numbers are going to be looked at. The AFL, of course, now have got all sorts of questions. There's Geelong are playing in Fremantle this weekend. WA got off the plane and were greeted by police escort. They have to get a test immediately. But at this point in the season, at this point of the week, it's going to be really difficult. Questions for Port Adelaide as well, of course, with their game this weekend. There's a lot to play out AFL-wise.
You'd think, too, the politics, because the New South Wales approach and the Victorian approach are the two polar opposites on the spectrum of pandemic management, with Berejiklian having historically been very open and Andrews being so quick to fire the gun on lockdown. In the last month, there's been a lot of criticism of Berejiklian for being a bit too pig-headed and for not really putting the brakes on things, because she didn't want her approach to be shown to be wanting. You know, she let New South Wales continue to enjoy freedoms at a time when the numbers were growing. The argument is she should have gone in harder and sooner. And now that Andrews is back with his hands on the steering wheel in Victoria, maybe this is his chance to go, all right, I know it's only 11 cases, but would you rather a 3-day lockdown or another 8 weeks?
Yeah, absolutely.
I reckon they'll do it. They'll do it.
Yeah, it's looking that way. The Weather Bureau has broken out the thunderstorm icon this morning in an exciting development. Top of 17, showers increasing, possible storm. Up to 15 mils of rain today. It's gone up again. Up to 20 mils of rain tomorrow. Potential for hail. There's severe winds. There's a weather warning. It's going to get really hairy. We'll talk to the Bureau in about 20 minutes' time. But
don't even think about taking your boat out.
No. Matt Abraham will be live in the studio after 7:30. I suspect we won't be crossing to him on a vessel.
He might even come on tomorrow too. He'll have nothing to do. He's like us.
24 minutes after 6.
If you make a living out of being a handy person, it's handy to know that Rollerco has got you covered when it comes to parts for sliding doors and windows. Actually, I'd say you're more than covered. We stock over 3,000 different spare parts, which means you can pop in, get what you need, and get back to it. No messing around. Time's money, right? Rollerco. We'll get you rolling. 26 Jacobson Crescent, Holden Hill. Just 15 minutes from the city.
Taking time to listen can make all the difference. Farrell & O'Neill Funerals is a South Australian family company committed to guiding and supporting families at an emotional time. We value a lifetime by offering a compassionate, caring and unique service with attention to the smallest detail. Finding guidance through a difficult time can be comforting. Farrell and O'Neill Funerals, 8296 3134.
Adelaide property values are at an all-time high. They grew by 5.9% in 2020. Really strong buyer demand driving that. In some areas, demand is greater than supply, and vendors are regularly getting multiple offers for homes with sold prices well above expectations.
And look, I tell you, if there's one group of people who know the city like the back of their hands, it's Toop and Toop. We know that our friends at Toop and Toop work across all suburbs, and we can tell you right now that in Maylands they're working with 4,247 buyers, 4,788 in beautiful Unley, and 4,331 in Mile End, and they're all searching for their perfect property in these specific locations.
If you're thinking of selling and would like to know how many buyers Toop and Toop are working with in your suburb, visit toop.com.au.
At Coles, we're helping lower the cost of lunchboxes with dozens of back-to-school specials, like half-price Carmen's Nut Bars 5-pack and John West Tuna Tempters 90 to 95 gram. Coles, value the Australian way. Offer ends Tuesday.
Living with osteoarthritis means living with pain, but SportsMed is changing that thanks to the revolutionary GLAD program. Here's SportsMed's Dr. Greg Keane with more.
GLAD is a 6-week exercise program performed in groups, and it continues to produce remarkable results for patients, even a year after completing the course. If you are struggling with the pain of osteoarthritis, visit SportsMed. Let's beat this.
SportsMed.
Start living life again, even with arthritis.
Sportsmed.com.au.
It's Australia's best at New Spot Motors MG. Pick up the MG ZS Compact SUV from just $21,990 drive away. Yes, just $21,990 drive away with 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty. No wonder it was voted 2021 Drive Car of the Year for best overall value. Book your MG test drive today at New Spot Motors, Hampstead Gardens and Salisbury Park. New Spot Motors for MG. MG, value since 1924. LVD 1743.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube.
The new 5AA Player app lets you listen to all your favourite 5AA shows, news and podcasts wherever you go. Download it now from the App Store.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
27 after 6. Very excited. Tom Wren in the studio. Must be a major golf tournament about to start somewhere in the world. He joins us thanks to Adelaide Appliance Gallery. Get $200 cash back on Bosch Washer Dry packages. Adelaide Appliance Gallery, the home of Mr. Dishwasher. Morning to you, Rennie.
Morning, Will. Morning, David. Yes, looking forward to zero sleep over the next 4 nights. The British Open.
Which one is it? The British Open?
Which I think is, I mean, Augusta would argue the Masters, that's the most prestigious one, but I think this one is. Just
Where
those
do they
beautiful.
Play it?
It's in England. Is it Royal St George's? Beautiful links courses, just blowing a gale.
St Andrews?
Not St Andrews.
It's not St Andrews. Oh, it moves, doesn't it?
It moves a little bit, yes. So it's not that classic St Andrews, but magnificent course, windy conditions, and it should suit the Australians. I think there are 11 there because they grow up playing in the wind. So the Australians should fare okay.
Yep.
If you're looking, gamble responsibly, for a best market in terms of top Aussie, I'd go for Min Woo Lee.
Okay.
Or Jason Scrivener. Both.
The Scruve.
Jason Scrivener, both at double digits for being the top Aussie out of 11. I reckon they're good. And if you're looking for a winner, I think Tyrrell Hatton from England is ready. He's about $34, I think. I think he'll go very close. And I think Matt Fitzpatrick, also from England, will go very, very close.
Royal St George Golf Club, located in Sandwich, Kent.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Home of the sandwich.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it would be, because it was the Earl of
the
Sandwich.
Earl of Sandwich.
Yeah.
Is that
Someone
right?
put a bit of ham between 2 pieces of bread and said, "Here you go." And he went, "My God, that's sensational."
It should have really been named after the help then, shouldn't it?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Not the Earl.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't make the sandwich.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
he just had it handed to him.
Yeah, and ate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just Tyrrell Hatton, Matt Fitzpatrick, and the other one I like is Xander Schauffele for what it's worth. But guys, front page story of the paper today. This is great, isn't it? We've seen how fantastic the Crows women have been. Well, now it looks like Port are officially going to put their bid in for a women's team, and they're going to upgrade Alberton too.
I like that idea.
A facelift, which is great. So
the picture looks good in the Tizer this morning.
looks
page 13.
great, doesn't it?
Them having a real home ground like that, I think it'll be terrific. It really, when you get to go to the women's games in this, I mean, Adelaide Oval's obviously terrific for the finals and whatnot, but when you get to go and watch a game at the Parade or the suburban grounds, I think it's just tailor-made for it. You get a really good number in there, and it's fantastic. I think that's a really great part of the pitch that they're all making to the AFL today.
Yeah, I think it's really good. So that will be submitted officially for a team in season 22-23. So great news for Port Adelaide, and
they need it. They were caught on the hop by the fact that the Crows got in first, and I know that people like Tom Coutts-Antonis, who's a total Port tragic, he's publicly bemoaned the fact that the China strategy was getting all the attention at a time when you've got 5, 6, 7-year-old girls in Adelaide, a lot of them from the western suburbs and the northern suburbs, who are from Port families going, I want to play AFL, I want to barrack for a women's team in Adelaide. And, he said through gritted teeth, buying his own daughter's Crows gear so they can go to watch women play. It's been a bit of a wasted 3 years for Port.
There is an element of bad luck, though, to hitching your wagon to a country that ultimately we'd have a economic Cold War with.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, that was not really foreseeable.
No, it made a hell of a lot more sense 5 years ago, the China strategy, than it has done in the last 12 months.
Yeah, just a few roadblocks along the way.
But there should be no partisanship about this, I don't think. I reckon, the more the merrier, and good luck to the Power Girls. I think it'll be great for the competition, and more importantly, great for young girls growing up in Adelaide who want to play footy for the team that they love.
Hear, hear.
On you, ready?
Thanks, boys.
This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Showers increasing with a possible storm today, 17 with the 6:30 news. I'm Mel Usher.
Woken with a stiff neck or sore back? Get a Physio Extra appointment today. 6 locations, physioextra.com.
Authorities have identified the on-the-run service station at the Motorsport Park at Tailem Bend as a third high-risk exposure site linked to the infectious removalists who visited SA late last week. Anyone who was there between 7:20 and 8:15am on Friday, July 9 is required to get tested and isolate. A fourth site is still being investigated. Meantime, it's been revealed there were only 25 QR code check-ins at the Tailem Bend Shell service station and adjoining cafe exposure sites, but 76 credit card transactions. Police Commissioner Grant Stevens has issued a timely reminder to all South Australians to remain vigilant.
I can't stress highly enough just how important it is for SA Health to be able to get on top of a possible outbreak by accessing that data. The data only exists if people do the right thing and QR code in. It's absolutely critical for people to do that at this time.
As of midnight, the rules for entering SA from Greater Melbourne were tightened. Travellers are now required to undergo COVID testing within 24 hours of their arrival and are not allowed to visit high-risk locations until receiving a negative result. Freight drivers must also produce evidence of a negative test prior to arriving. Hotel quarantine is once again in the spotlight after another possible case of transmission in a local Medi hotel. Well, the mask mandate is back in force across the border as Victorians wait to hear what other restrictions will be imposed in response to their latest COVID outbreak. Nine's Isabella Stokowski reports.
Victoria is this morning facing a fifth lockdown. Reportedly, it could last 3 days and start tonight. It comes as, without warning, the mask mandate returns. A late-night announcement that masks will again be required indoors and outdoors where social distancing isn't possible. In total, 11 new cases yesterday. 10 will be in today's numbers. Authorities are essentially battling two outbreaks, one linked to the family of 4 who breached isolation, the other to the 3 rogue removalists who are still not cooperating with authorities. Exposure sites have ballooned, testing sites inundated.
COVID-19 has hit the largest hospital in Sydney's southwest. A pregnant woman has tested positive a day after being treated at Liverpool Hospital. There have been 864 locally acquired cases in Sydney since a driver tested positive a month ago. The Defence Minister says a Chinese surveillance ship is being closely monitored after arriving off the Queensland coast. It's here ahead of the start of military exercises between Australia, the US and Japan. Australian Strategic Policy Institute's Michael Shoebridge says it needs to be taken seriously.
We need to be focused about this and we need to see it for what it is. This is an unfriendly Navy collecting intelligence on our peak exercise, not just with the Americans, but with about 6 other friendly partner nation.
Harry and Meghan's next production with Netflix has been unveiled. The Duchess of Sussex will create and executive produce an animated series for the streaming service called Pearl. It will follow the adventures of a 12-year-old girl who finds inspiration in influential women throughout history. Now turning to 5AA Sport.
Get $200 cash back on Bosch washer dryer packages at Adelaide Appliance Gallery, home of Mr Dishwasher.
Here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Mel. Let's start with footy, and there's uncertainty on the AFL fixture this morning after the latest COVID outbreak in Victoria. At this stage, Port Adelaide will be heading to face St Kilda on Saturday night in Melbourne, but more details are set to be confirmed today. Meantime, Geelong has been given a special exemption to play in tonight's match against Fremantle after WA closed its border to Victoria. Still on football, and Adelaide defender Brodie Smith admits he's lucky he didn't suffer any permanent damage after he was struck in the eye with a golf ball. Smith is sporting a nasty black eye and says the incident occurred just after he'd putted his ball.
The group behind me thought it was time to go when it clearly wasn't, and they've shanked their shot off of the green, and one bounce, it's got me in the eye. So
stop it.
Saw the doctor yesterday and there's no damage whatsoever, so I'm very unlucky to get hit, but very lucky that it's hit me where it has and not done any damage.
Unbelievable. Well, New South Wales has regained the Origin trophy despite suffering a 20-18 loss in Game 3 on the Gold Coast against Queensland last night. The Blues still won the best-of-3 series, 2-1. The Open Golf Championship will tee off this afternoon. 11 Australians will be in the field. And the Boomers' great run of form heading into the games is continuing, thrashing Nigeria by 39 points while resting 5 players. And Netball's Constellation Cup between Australia and New Zealand will be played in Cairns for the first time in October. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Audi Solitaire, Metro Dealer of the Year. Visit audisolitaire.com.au.
17 today, showers increasing with a possible storm. Showers and windy tomorrow 14. Saturday, showers and winds easing 14. Right now it's 12 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
The new 5AA Player app lets you listen to all your favourite 5AA shows, news and podcasts wherever you go. Download it now from the App Store.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
23 minutes to 7, off to the US before 7 o'clock. Police and weather in a moment. You don't want to listen out for the weather because it's going to be a story for the next 48 hours. And I'm not talking about it just being a little wet. It's going to be a lot windy and the potential for real hail to be an issue as well. So we'll get you across that in the next 10 minutes or so. Then later in the morning, Police Commissioner Grant Stevens, Matt Abraham before him, and then after 8:30, we are off to Tokyo to speak with an Adelaide journo who has made the trek over there in an environment that is, shall we say, very strange.
Yeah, I got to say, it sounds like the opposite of my experience in Sydney, where it was basically like party time. It was 2 weeks of just carrying on, carousing, late nights, hanging out at the media village, meeting journos from all over the world. It was just so much fun, walking around with your pass, meeting friends who were there, who had tickets, relatives who'd come over from South Australia who got them in the lottery. It was just the ultimate social event. And now, with today, Tokyo registering 1,100 new COVID cases, the highest number in the last 2 months, an official edict, no one is allowed to go. The number of athletes, even taking part in the opening ceremony, pegged at 50 for the Australian contingent. The opening ceremony itself is going to be pared right back because they don't want it to be some sort of over-the-top display at a time when the world's being told to batten down the hatches still. It's basically going to be go and watch sporting events that no one is attending. You're not allowed to cheer or shout. You're not even allowed to laugh. There was a story yesterday I heard about a journo who was told off for having a too loud a conversation in a 7-Eleven at the media village. It just sounded...
Well, I mean, it depends on who the journo is, doesn't it? Because I've met some people who should be told to tone it down a little bit.
Huffy.
I was going to say any names.
We love Huffy.
We do. 21 to 7. Do we have any
what's all this then?
Car salespeople listening? Because I think in Adelaide receiving a gong, you and your profession may have been slighted. German data analytics group Twinner have released a list of cities ranking them by their honesty. And Adelaide, yet another gong in the trophy cabinet, were the most honest city in Australia. Third most honest city on earth, which is great.
So we're third most livable and third most honest.
Third most livable, third most honest. Now, the methodology is interesting. They did a month-long study compiling data on the reputation of government transparency, theft, a host of other things. One of the measures was the reputation of car dealerships. I don't know why.
Why just car dealerships?
I don't know. There was other things, but that was one of them. So there was
define irony. Two journalists talking about the moral rectitude of car dealers.
I'm not passing judgment, but people of Adelaide have, it turns out. In 75 prominent cities around the world, we came third. Here are the ranks in those key statistical areas. We were 5th for civic honesty, 11th for the perception of crime, 30th out of 75 for positive car dealership reviews. We would have been first if we liked our car salespeople more.
See, the only dealings I've ever had with car salesmen and women in Adelaide have been eminently pleasant.
Yeah. I love the good people at Dave Potter.
Oh, doesn't it even gets in the commercial reference.
Do we have any car salespeople listening? I mean,
you know what I thought was funny?
It's cruel.
The 10th most honest city in the world is Brisbane,
yes,
which of course is the home of the Fitzgerald inquiry. How does that work? I'm questioning the methodology.
Yeah, well, no, don't question it too closely because we did come third in the world.
No, it's great to see.
So this is the tightrope of succeeding at something that sounds like a total bunch of...
That's right.
We've thought, though, it's interesting. We're so most livable, most honest. What are other words, single words that describe Adelaide or Adelaideans for the $100 Wohlers gift card? Livable, honest, 8223 0000, or text us on the Telstra Storm Out Barker text line. It's hard to encapsulate in one word.
One word.
The obvious one, it feels like low-hanging fruit, but I think parochial.
Yeah, I wouldn't say parochial.
You don't think?
No.
You're kidding?
No. I reckon every city's parochial. New York's parochial. Parochial's wrongly interpreted as meaning sort of small-minded.
That's not how I intend it. That's not how I intend it. And I think the attitude is different in New York. New York exists in a bubble where it doesn't think the rest of America exists, let alone the rest of the world. South Australia is acutely aware that the rest of the country exists and feels a need to... We feel the need to push our barrow at every opportunity.
Historically, we've been insecure, I think. About
maybe that's a word.
Well, I think that's changing, though. I think the big change, particularly through COVID, has been that we've started to go, geez, how lucky are we? And that grudgingly, people in the eastern states are going, geez, they've got it pretty good over there in Adelaide, haven't they?
Yep. Well, they're moving here. It's what property prices are going up.
Totally. Exactly.
8223, destination, maybe that's a word. 8223 0000, text us on the Telstra Storm Out Barker text line.
Mine's really obvious. Mine's laid back. Like the thing that used to drive me mad about Sydney was that everyone was constantly bluing about something. And I think the moral sort of, not moral, the personality of that city is defined so much by the fact that it was a convict town. You know, like the sort of... The moral fibre of Sydney was exposed on the night that the authorities back in 1788 said, all right, we've got the female convict hulk tethered out there in Middle Harbour, we'll bring it in. And they let all the women off the ship. And immediately there was this drunken orgy that unfolded within hours of the female convicts being brought ashore. And in a way, it sort of set the standard for all the New Year's Eve parties that have been held over the last 230 years. Seriously. And the politics of Sydney is totally marked by the convict culture. You know, just low-rent bastards on the take, brown paper bags, suburban councillors who've taken $500 from someone who wants to put up a 7-storey, commercial project. Like the people who parade through ICAC in that town, grifters, gougers, bludgers, leaners. It's what makes it such a great place to be as a journalist.
You seem especially well equipped to come up with single words to describe Sydney.
Yeah,
maybe that should have been the $100 Wallace gift card. Grifters, leaners, rejects, losers.
I didn't say rejects.
Oh, didn't you?
No.
Yeah.
I love the place, though. I reckon it's a
Sounds like it.
It's a fantastic city, but it is loose as.
All right.
It is the loosest joint in Australia by a country mile.
15 to 7. Let's check traffic thanks to Air Conditioning Warehouse Sales. They've got Adelaide's biggest air conditioning brands and best prices. Airwaresales.com.au.
Good morning. At Lockley's got a burst water main, Sir Donald Bradman Drive near the airport. Lonsdale, single motorcycle accident there. That's at Lonsdale and Sheriff's Road. Take some extra caution there this morning. Crayford, speed restrictions on the freeway still apply for works in both directions. Speeds are reduced and also heavy fog in the area this morning. Busy on the drive in at Two Wells, inbound Port Wakefield Road, Mallala Road to the Northern Expressway, and cameras Grant Avenue, Toorak Gardens and Hallett Road at Wattle Park. Rebel's big winter sale is on now. Get 25% off all full-price women's clothing. Exclusions apply. Plus more deals online while stocks last. Rebel, sport is calling. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Finally, you can get back to the Lion. Get back to early knock-off drinks with your workmates and friends. And we've got something you'll want to come back to the Lion for. $8 glasses of wine and $10 spritz cocktails, $6 schooners, and that's all tap beers.
Back to the Lion.
Get back to knock-off drinks, 3 p.m. till 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. Get back to where you belong. The Lion, North Adelaide.
Welcome to Amy's Everyday Arena, where competitor Keith is at the barbie. Oh my, a sausage is on fire. He makes a break for it, clears a hurdle of bikes, and plonks that blazing bratwurst into the bin. Oh, and he's knocked over the shed. Luckily, when accidents happen at home, Amy can help cover it. Who helps cover the challenges of the Everyday Arena? Amy does. Optional accidental damage at home cover is available with Amy Home Building and Contents Insurance. Exclusions apply. Before buying insurance issued by Amy, read the PDS at amy.com.au.
I don't really like talking on radio, but I do like talking about our cows at the FIVEaa Milk Company. And I love helping support SA dairy farmers. They're a great bunch with beautiful families. They work day and night to produce the best milk in SA. So when you're in the supermarket, look for FIVEaa Milk Company. South Australian and proud of it. I'm getting good at this.
FIVEaa Milk Company, celebrating 15 years of SA business. FLurioMilkCo.com.au.
For over 36 years, Steinborner certified cars has always exceeded expectations on value, service and selection, and that continues. That's why it's always well worth a trip to Steinborner certified cars in Gawler, Nuriotpa and Clare for great deals on new and demo Hyundai, Ford and Mitsubishis, plus SA's biggest and best range of used cars. Make the trip to one of Steinborner's 8 dealerships or view the whole range of cars now at steinborner.com.au and join the thousands who know. Steinborner certified cars. It's well worth the trip.
Want to learn to be the boss?
Change the system.
Blaze the trail.
Want to turn your passion into pay?
Ever dreamed of solving the problem?
Helping community.
Setting the trends.
The time to take this course begins today.
At Torrens University Australia, we can transform passion into careers that bring the best out of you.
Find a course that fits you perfectly and follow your heart.
Do what you love.
And love what you do.
Search Torrens University Australia.
You can trust 9 News is live and local. Weeknights at 5, nightly at 6. 9 News.
The new 5AA Player app lets you listen to all your favourite 5AA shows, news and podcasts wherever you go. Download it now from the App Store.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
12 to 7. We feel car salespeople were somewhat slighted in an analysis of perceptions in Adelaide that actually led to us being crowned the third most honest group of people on planet Earth, first in Australia. But the metric that dragged us away from being number one was perception of the trustworthiness of car salespeople. Well, we got a lovely little message that came through from Jeanette on the 5AA Facebook live stream, who says, I've got a disability that makes it difficult for me to get in and out of a car. Visited a car yard yesterday to try out a few Volvos. The salesman at Solitaire could not have been nicer. I felt like Goldilocks sitting in and trying out the many cars. He was so helpful and patient. They didn't ask Jeanette. We would have been number one if Jeanette got to fill out the survey. Thank you for that.
Exactly.
It also means that we've been conferred another title, most trustworthy in Australia, most livable in Australia. We're asking for other words this morning on the Telstra Storm Out Barker text line, or you can call us to win a $100 wireless gift card. Fantastic, says Mark from Para Hills. Beautiful, Wally the Walnut. One word for Adelaide and extremely twisted since 91, crows, says another. Sue and Christie's Beat says, without a doubt, unpretentious. No princesses or yuppies here. Kim on the live stream says calm. Michelle on the Facebook live stream says easy. It's just got an unfortunate connotation, easy, doesn't it?
Does a bit, just a little bit.
Friendly, says another. And Karen says proud. That's a good way of perhaps restating what I was suggesting a moment ago.
The criteria was honesty, and I mentioned jokingly the Fitzgerald inquiry in Queensland. You think back to the Wood Royal Commission into police corruption in New South Wales, unearthed all sorts of nastiness throughout the ranks of the police force, but aptly, given we're about to cross to SAPOL, there's been a couple of moments. Barry Moyes, probably the most outstanding, but I can remember they did Operation Hygiene years ago to try to get to the bottom of whether there were any problems with SAPOL, and they got a couple of cops who'd swiped 2 punnets of strawberries or something from a supermarket that had been robbed. But historically, compared to the other states, we've been blessed to have an extremely scrupulous police force.
Well, how about that for an intro, Rebecca? You're comfortable with the
Good
entrails
morning,
of
that's
police
very
corruption
impressive.
being picked over before you come on the air?
That's fantastic. Yeah, we do have a very high reputation, which we're very proud of, and quite rightly so. Not just
good on
police,
you,
but
mate.
South Australia in general, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you reflect the society you're from, I guess.
Oh, exactly. I think we have a high standard here in South Australia, and we certainly try to live up to it.
Yeah.
And we certainly find out when we don't.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
absolutely.
Exactly.
Like the crows do.
SAPOL's not going through a rebuild, are they?
Oh, God, no.
Yeah, okay. Now, a car's crashed into a unit at Elizabeth Park.
Yeah, so police and emergency services were called to this unit on Palmer Road, Elizabeth Park, about 12:30am this morning after a Ford Territory crashed through the front wall of the premises. It caused significant damage to the house and a Toyota RAV4 that was parked in the driveway, and another car, a Mazda sedan, also parked in the driveway, was hit by falling debris. There were 3 or 4 occupants in the house at the time, and fortunately they weren't injured during the incident, and neither was the driver. He's a 38-year-old Smithfield Plains man. He was arrested and charged with refusing breath analysis, driving disqualified, and driving without due care, and he'll face court at a later date. We also had to call in SES to ensure the structure of the building was safe, and we put up a photo on our website and Facebook, and you can see it really went into that unit there and really caused some damage there. It also knocked out power to the 6 units, and SA Power Networks had to attend overnight and conduct repairs. So that Ford Territory has been towed from the scene. The driver will face court, and investigation's continuing there.
Good on you, Rebecca.
Thanks,
Thank you for that.
Rebecca.
Senior Constable Rebecca Stokes from SAPOL. Simon Timke's the senior forecaster at the Bureau. Well, all week we've been saying it's going to be wet. There's going to be more of that on the way, Simon, but it looks like it could be a little bit more hairy than that in a number of other ways in the next 48 hours.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Yeah, as well as wet, it's going to be pretty windy too. I think we'll see the winds gradually increase during the day today and continue into Friday. Friday probably a bit windier than today. And the showers today, not much around at the moment. Looking at the radar, there's some showers down around Kangaroo Island, and we had a little strike of lightning down there too earlier. Around the Adelaide area, pretty clear right now. And the skies up to our sort of northwest where the weather's coming from, reasonably clear as well. So probably see a little bit of sunshine this morning and mostly dry, but as the day goes on, the chance of showers will increase. I think by sort of mid to late afternoon will be a very high chance of seeing showers, possibly a thunderstorm at that time of day as well, and continuing into the evening, chance of heavy falls locally in the evening as well with those storms and heavier showers. The wind's increasing during the day as well. We do have a number of warnings out, including a severe weather warning for potentially damaging winds, which includes a good bit of the south of the state and includes the Adelaide area, and that risk around Adelaide is probably the evening time. That warning most likely continuing into Friday as well, when conditions probably are a little bit windier than today. We have marine warnings out for all South Australian coast, including the metro waters, a strong wind warning for the metro waters today, a gale warning for Friday. We've got a road weather alert out for some fog around the hills this morning, so take extra care on the roads. We've got a flood watch out for the Mount Lofty Ranges, but particularly for a chance of minor flooding around the upper reaches of the Onkaparinga River, most likely around the Oakbank area, so that's minor minor flooding, and that's probably more likely on a Friday. So take a bit of extra care if you're up that way as well. And a sheep grazier is warning out as well. So quite a bit of weather on the way, wet, windy. Temperature-wise today, not too cold, 17 degrees for the city, currently sitting on around sort of 12 degrees. But those temperatures are a bit lower tomorrow. Once we get the cold air come through behind the front, will be noticeably colder for a few days, 14 degrees for Friday with showers and windy conditions again. Then 14 degrees for both Saturday and Sunday, so a pretty cold weekend on the way. But the showers gradually easing, I think, during Saturday. Still one or two showers left for Sunday. So bit of wintry weather on the way, guys.
Do you think we'll get hail?
I think we are a chance of some hail, probably in the evening on Friday and during Saturday when we see the coldest air behind that cold front. So a reasonable chance of that as well.
Good on you, Simon. Thank you for that. Simon Timke, Senior Forecaster at the Weather Bureau.
Thursday night is the perfect night for anything made with pork, like Tex-Mex pork mince nachos, pork shepherd's pie, or barbecue Moroccan pork mince skewers. Check out all the recipes at pork.com.au and get some pork on your fork.
It's the little things that make a big difference to your day, like a thank you email from a colleague or a smile from a stranger on the train. And it can all start here with a healthy, delicious breakfast made with the goodness of Aussie-made Pura milk. It's got 8 essential nutrients and vitamins to kickstart your morning and set you up for the day ahead. So start your day the positive way with Pura.
Whether a hobby or a full-blown dairy and livestock farm, they all have one thing in common: the need for good quality steel to keep livestock safe and secure. At Knorr Metals, we have just that. From rural fencing and gates to droppers, loading ramps and more, you'll find what you need for your farm. And if we don't, we'll source it for you quickly and at the best price. No matter what kind of farm you have, we'll help you out. At Knorr Metals, 255 Grand Junction Road, Ottaway.
Hi, it's Wayne from Wayne Phillips Kia. Are you considering a new Kia? There's no better place to check out the range than SA's #1 Kia dealership, Wayne Phillips Kia at Ranella. Meet our team and experience why we're SA's Dealer of the Year and have been for the last 6 years. Drop in, or if you can't come to us, we'll come to you. Don't buy a Kia anywhere until you've seen us for the absolute best deal with great, friendly and professional service. Wayne Phillips Kia, Main South Road, Ranella.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube.
The new 5AA Player app lets you listen to all your favourite 5AA shows, news and podcasts wherever you go. Download it now from the App Store.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
3 to 7, we've cornered the market on livable and trustworthy and honesty. What are some other words that describe South Australia? We're going to confer these on ourselves. We've reached a sort of a point of excellence now where we can start coming up with our own monikers, I think. Boyd in Manapara, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, guys.
What's yours,
I
Boyd?
was thinking about all the troubles we've had over the last few years and how compassionate some people are in terms of, the Hutt Street charity run that you guys did, Kangaroo Island. I really believe deep down, South Australia might not be as flamboyant as New South Wales, but one thing we do is we put our hands in our pockets when we need to, when people are down. And furthermore, if I do happen to win this voucher, then I'd like you to donate it to any charity that you see fit.
No, good on you, Boyd.
Good on you, Boyd.
That is a
Very
generous
kind of you to
gesture.
say.
And one that's appropriate, given you've picked our generosity as the word. Yeah,
we have probably an opportune moment and a little early for breaking at 8, but we're hearing some very positive noises about the Undy Drive.
Yeah.
Later in the year,
Yeah.
Some people thought the Undy Drive may have been a relic of the past.
That had been COVIDed out of existence.
It had been COVIDed out. Well, the Undy Drive has been vaccinated, shall we say? Julie in Manningham
vaccinated twice.
Has been. Morning to you, Julie.
I'm so glad for that. I am so glad. Born and bred in Adelaide from a little girl growing up, and just always think that it's just a constant, Adelaide. It's that sort of place where if you go away, you come back, and it's just there. It's one of those places that I love it.
Consistent. would be
exactly.
the word, I guess.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's excellent, Julie.
There's a massive business story yesterday that proved that exact point with the Skilligalee winery being purchased by, I forgot his first name, Clausen. Nigel Clausen?
Not sure.
I used to work with his sister, but he's a high-flying merchant banker, investor, huge wheeler dealer based in Geneva. He owns properties in Manhattan. And yesterday it was announced that he bought the Skilligalee winery in Clare because he grew up in Clare, and he said, I want that connection, and I want to be able to come back home, when the international arrival caps are increased, because
maybe the best...
To Julie's point, it's like, doesn't matter if you're just an average punter or someone who's a captain of industry, you feel that real yearning.
I think the best way to get back into Australia or South Australia now, if you are overseas, is to enrol at the Adelaide University. I think you've got a real chance of coming back then.
You got a 1 in 140 chance.
Well,
it's about as many as they're taking, isn't it?
I think that's probably better than getting on an international flight at the moment.
I was told Made in the States was quoted $36,000 to come home.
Oh, that's just...
And that doesn't include the extra $3,000 you got to pay for quarantining.
What do we like for the $100 Waller's gift card?
Well, I actually think we should give it to Boyd. I totally agree with what he said about generosity, which means it goes back into the kitty, but we'll make a $100 donation.
Maybe it can be the first donation for the Undie Drive.
Yeah, let's do that.
That isn't officially announced yet. And if anyone asks, I definitely didn't talk about it this morning.
No, that's right. We'll keep that to ourselves for now.
7 o'clock. What time does the boss get up?
6 o'clock.
Okay, good. No, not good.
No, not good.
5AA News on the way, and baby Dust David will be back right after this.
Online, on DAB Digital Radio, and on 1395 AM. Talking Adelaide. This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Showers increasing with a possible storm today, 17. With the 7 o'clock news, I'm Mel Usher.
Physio Extra is a registered NDIS provider, so let them support you in achieving your goals. PhysioExtra.com.
Testing requirements have ramped up for people arriving in SA from Greater Melbourne. Travellers are now required to undergo a COVID test within 24 hours of arrival. It comes after Victoria recorded 11 new cases yesterday. Police Commissioner Grant Stevens says they're closely monitoring the situation.
We need to recognise that South Australia, as the jurisdiction with probably the most relaxed COVID restrictions for its own community, means that we are at risk if it does get in here. It could spread very quickly. Ideally, we don't want to make those changes. We'd like to keep things as they are.
Meanwhile, the on-the-run service station at Tailem Bend has been identified as another exposure site linked to the removalists from Sydney. Anyone who was there on Friday, July 9, between 7:20 and 8:15 in the morning is required to get tested and isolate. And a potential hotel quarantine breach in the city is under investigation. A returned traveller has tested positive, but it's not believed he caught COVID overseas. The New South Wales government should get an indication today if tighter lockdown rules are starting to have an impact on Sydney's COVID outbreak. Nine's Clinton Maynard reports.
The first 2 weeks of stay-at-home orders did little to control the spread of the Delta strain. Now, as Greater Sydney edges towards the end of week 3, the impact of the tighter rules limiting movement should start to be felt. They came into effect last Friday night, and health experts say it takes at least 5 days for changes in restrictions to be reflected in infection rates. Premier Gladys Berejiklian says she's observed a major reduction in movement this week, particularly in the Fairfield hotspot, but authorities still want to see fewer people leave their homes in the Liverpool and Canterbury Bankstown areas.
Victoria has imposed tighter restrictions. 11 new cases have been detected, linked to removalists from New South Wales and a family who recently returned from Sydney. Masks are once again compulsory indoors, and limits are expected to be introduced on home visits and indoor crowds. Dr Rob Grenfell from the CSIRO says more restrictions in Victoria are inevitable.
I don't think Victoria will take any chances with this one. The virus only respects tough and hard lockdowns and also, obviously, vaccination. Those are the only 2 ways you can stop this.
A Ford Territory has slammed into a unit at Elizabeth Park. It went through the front wall of the Palmer Road home around 12:30 this morning. The collision causing significant damage to the house and a RAV4 parked in the driveway. Another car parked there was also damaged by falling debris. Senior Constable Rebecca Stokes says it's amazing no one was seriously hurt.
There were 3 or 4 occupants in the house at the time, and fortunately they weren't injured during the incident, and neither was the driver. He's a 38-year-old Smithfield Plains man. He was arrested and charged with refusing breath analysis, driving disqualified and driving without due care, and he'll face court at a later date.
Adelaide has another claim to fame. We're the most honest city in the country, according to a new international study. Zurich was number 1, followed by Tokyo. Brisbane was the only other Aussie city to make the top 10. Last month, Adelaide beat its interstate counterparts to be named the most livable city in Australia. Now turning to 5AA Sport.
Get $200 cash back on Bosch washer dryer packages at Adelaide Appliance Gallery, home of Mr Dishwasher.
So honest you can believe everything that comes out of this guy's mouth. It's over to Tom Wren.
Oh, now you might be pushing it, Mel.
Yeah, I might be.
Let's start with football, hey, and Port Adelaide and St Kilda will release their sides tonight. That's ahead of Saturday night's match, which is still scheduled to be played at Marvel Stadium. The Crows and West Coast will only name extended squads as their match isn't being played until Sunday. Meantime, Sydney and GWS, which have been based in Melbourne, are fleeing to Queensland. That's to avoid the latest outbreak as the AFL navigates last-minute fixture changes. Nine's Kiara Parker has the details.
The Swans and Giants were due to play in Ballarat this weekend, but the game will be moved to the Sunshine State. The Sydney teams fly out this morning with a location for their match yet to be confirmed. The Bulldogs are also flying to Queensland today, one day earlier than scheduled, ahead of Saturday's game against Gold Coast at Metcon Stadium. At this stage, Port Adelaide is still planning to fly to Melbourne for this weekend's game against St Kilda at Marvel Stadium. Geelong has been given a special exemption to play Fremantle in Perth tonight after Western Australia closed its border to Victoria yesterday when a string of new COVID cases emerged.
Queensland has regained some pride after taking out Game 3 of the Origin series against New South Wales, 20-18 on the Gold Coast. The Blues still won the series 2-1. The Matildas will head into the Olympics without a win since March last year. They've gone down to Japan 1-0 in their final warm-up match. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now checking 5AA traffic.
Air Conditioning Warehouse Sales has Adelaide's biggest air conditioning brands and best prices. airwaresales.com.au.
And Locklear's got a burst water main on Sir Donald Bradman Drive near the airport. Lonsdale, single motorcycle accident at Lonsdale and Sheriff's Road. Crayford, speed restrictions on the freeway still apply for works in both directions and speeds are also reduced for fog. Busy on the drive in at Two Wells, inbound Port Wakefield Road, Malala Road to the Northern Expressway, and cameras this morning, Hillier Road, Ranella, and Kensington Road at Wattle Park. Click Frenzy is now on at Michael Hill in-store and online. 40% off selected silver and 20% off selected diamonds and gold. Hurry, ends Sunday at Michael Hill. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Audi Solitaire, Metro Dealer of the Year. Visit audisolitaire.com.au.
Showers increasing today with a possible storm 17. Showers and windy tomorrow 14. 14 again on Saturday. Right now it's 11 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
In the last hour on Adelaide's 5AA.
The Weather Bureau has broken out the thunderstorm icon this morning in an exciting development. Top of 17, showers increasing, possible storm, up to 15 mils of rain today. It's gone up again, up to 20 mils of rain tomorrow. Hail, there's severe winds, there's a weather warning. It's going to get really hairy.
Don't even think about taking your boat out.
No. German data analytics group Twinner have released a list of cities ranking them by their honesty. And Adelaide, yet another gong in the trophy cabinet, were the most honest city in Australia. Third most honest city on earth, which is great. One of the measures was the reputation of car dealerships.
Why just car dealerships?
I don't know. In 75 prominent cities around the world, we came 30th out of 75 for positive car dealership reviews. We would have been first if we liked our car salespeople more.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
8 after 7. Feels like our just desserts for years of dodgy car salesman jokes. See, this is what happens.
Exactly.
We got our comeuppance by way of a German survey into honesty. Coming up on the program, Grant Stevens, the police commissioner, after 8 o'clock. Matt Abraham before him at 7:30. Also, we're crossing to Tokyo to get a bit of a sense of what it's like 8 days out from the start of the Olympic Games. Well, let's get to the big news stories on this, the 15th of July, this Thursday morning. An urgent alert issued by SA Health last night identified the OTR Motorsport Park service station as a new location of concern. Anyone who visited the service station between 7:20am and 8:15am last Friday needs to immediately quarantine and get tested. There's a fourth site along the Dukes Highway that's still being investigated as well. And there's a real question mark we're going to put to the police commissioner after 8 o'clock about why this has taken so long to work out where these blokes had stopped for a coffee and fill up the car.
Well, the Victorian head of the pandemic response yesterday gave it to these removalists with both barrels and said that they've been less than honest, less than candid. It took them more than 24 hours to admit that they had more than one truck.
Why? Is that illegal?
Well,
is that a breach of the rules?
I don't know.
It doesn't seem to be any
they just
reason.
freaked out and thought, oh no, we're in the frame for something, we've done something wrong, and they all clammed up. There's been suggestions that there was a language issue with one of them, that he couldn't understand, couldn't speak English, couldn't work out the questions.
Is there a chance there's a bedside manner problem with how people are questioned? Isn't this the whole root of the pizza bar issue? That the guy thought he had to fabricate something because he was going to be in more trouble if he told the truth?
Not sure about that case.
All right, we'll leave that one alone.
It's one of Adelaide's great, not fully resolved mysteries, I think, that case.
All right, we'll just shoulder arms cricket style and let that one just pass outside the off stump.
That's all right. A nice leave.
Here is the Police Commissioner, Grant Stevens.
We're also very concerned about the fact that there has been a positive case arising from the MCG last weekend, and I would encourage any South Australian resident or person in South Australia now who was at the MCG at that football game to isolate and get a test and contact SA Health for further instructions. Some changes that are going to take place as of midnight tonight, as a first step, are that we are requiring all people coming in from Victoria to undertake level 1 testing. That means you must have a test within 24 hours of arriving in South Australia, and you are not permitted to go to a high-risk location, for example, an aged care facility, until you have a negative result. That only requires one test at this time.
The Police Commissioner, our guest after 8 o'clock today. Lots of Port Power news around this morning.
And they could never, ever tear us apart.
Don't say we don't do anything for you.
I'll say.
The Power are due
I had nothing to do with the decision to play that song.
The Power are due to fly to Melbourne on a chartered flight Friday afternoon, return on Sunday. Port and Brisbane, who flew into Melbourne on Wednesday. The two teams most likely to be advised to stay in their hotels unless training or playing during their time in Victoria. So they're the most affected teams in the AFL at the moment. There's a question about what happens with borders, what happens with Port, how they get back. So they're the big questions around this week in Port Adelaide. The really good news story that came out this morning, we hope manifests in a good story later today, is that the Port Adelaide will be putting their pitch to the AFL later today with regard to getting an AFLW side. And the reason we play a bit of Never Tear Us Apart, part of the pitch is it will be like the Port Adelaide game day experience, except it'll be they redeveloped Alberton, which is great. They'll have a home ground. The captain will wear the number 1 jumper. There'll be Never Tear Us Apart beforehand. All the key figures at the Port Adelaide Football Club are going to the AFL today to make the pitch. And in all sincerity, we hope it gets up. It should. Growth of the women's game is good for the sport more broadly. So it'd be terrific if we could have a AFLW showdown in South Australia sometime soon.
So there's four teams left in the AFL that don't have women's clubs. Sydney don't have one, Essendon don't have one, and Hawthorn, whose chairman Jeff Kennett typically has been the most vocal about this, basically demanding that they get one. The family club, as they like to call themselves. But the AFL is only going to issue 2 new licences. So it's two of the 4 will get their hands on licences for next year's season.
13 after 7. Weather's going to be a big story, of course, later today and into tomorrow. Potentially hail, winds are a problem, and huge amounts of rain are on the way. Here's Simon Timke a little earlier.
As well as wet, it's going to be pretty windy too. I think we'll see the winds gradually increase during the day today and it continue into Friday. Friday probably a bit windier than today. And the showers today, not much around at the moment. Looking at the radar, there's some showers down around Kangaroo Island, and we had a little strike of lightning down there too earlier. Around the Adelaide area, pretty clear right now. And skies up to our sort of northwest where the weather's coming from, reasonably clear as well. So probably see a little bit of sunshine this morning and mostly dry, but as the day goes on, the chance of showers will increase. I think by sort of mid to late afternoon will be a very high chance of seeing showers, possibly a thunderstorm at that time of day as well, and continuing into the evening, chance of heavy falls locally in the evening as well with those storms and heavier showers. Quite a bit of weather on the way, wet, windy. Temperature-wise today, not too cold, 17 degrees for the city, currently sitting on around sort of 12 degrees.
Do you think we'll get hail?
I think we are a chance of some hail, probably in the evening on Friday and during Saturday when we see the coldest air behind that cold front. So a reasonable chance of that as well.
Yeah, so it's going to be very wet, very windy. Don't be out in a boat and tie down loose stuff, certainly into tomorrow. Now, how across you are the big names in contemporary pop music?
Oh, contemporary?
Yeah.
Oh, I reckon I'm batting about 1 out of 10. Why?
Do you know who this is? I know the song, actually, now that it's played.
Dorigo?
Olivia Rodrigo.
Rodrigo, yeah.
Olivia Rodrigo, who's been drafted in by Joe Biden in the US to be the face of the vaccination campaign for young Americans.
Hi. First, I want to say I am beyond honored and humbled to be here today to help spread the message about the importance of youth vaccination. I'm in awe of the work President Biden and Dr. Fauci have done and was happy to help lend my support to this important initiative. It's important to have conversations with friends and family members, encouraging all communities to get vaccinated and actually get to a vaccination site, which you can do more easily than ever before, given how many sites we have and how easy it is to find them at vaccines.gov. Thank you, Jen, for having me today, and thank you all for helping share this important message. It's so appreciated.
I think, again, it shows that you catch more bees with honey and that there's a as you said the other day, Will, about that excellent French ad where as people are being vaccinated, they gradually receive something that they enjoy is returned to them, like going to a cafe or opening their business or going to a soccer stadium. Here we've opted to go down the path of having a 20-year-old, 20-something girl half choking to death with the words "stay home, book a vaccination," even though most of us, well, a lot of us still can't because we're not in the right age bracket or people are worried about which of the vaccines they're going to take. I think we could learn a lot from these countries that have taken the positive approach and tried to make it more of an uplifting and optimistic thing about society getting back to normal, as opposed to punitive, scary, threatening, menacing, the type of ad that, when you see it, you make sure your young kids aren't watching the television because it's giving bloody nightmares.
The Australian ad needs to be about the fact that the vaccine doesn't protect you against COVID. It kills everything you hate about COVID. It kills having to hear about it on the radio. It means it doesn't lead the news. It means that you don't have to sign in with a QR code. It means you don't have to social distance. You never have to worry about where your mask is. Is it in the glove box of the car? Is it in the... All those things. That's what it protects against.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to kill in Australia. Mind you, it'd be nice if we had a problem like, can we get young people vaccinated? Who's going to be the face in Australia? We're not even at that point yet. So
not even close.
Exactly. All right, let's check traffic thanks to Air Conditioning Warehouse Sales. We've got Adelaide's biggest air conditioning brands and best prices, airwaresales.com.au.
At Locklear's got a burst water main on Sir Donald Bradman Drive near the airport. Crowfers, speed restrictions on the freeway still apply for works in both directions. Speeds also reduced for fog. Busy on the drive in Two Wells, inbound Port Wakefield Road, Mallala Road to the Northern Expressway. Roadworks this morning, South Road near Addison Road, Black Forest, both directions, and cameras Grant Avenue, Tiro Gardens and Hillier Road at Ranella. The biggest ever King Winter Sale ends soon. Save up to 50% on Australian designed furniture. Visit the King Keswick showroom or shop online, kingliving.com today. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Leon Biner.
Eminent heart specialist Professor John Horowitz has come out swinging in an open letter to the Premier about our dysfunctional health and hospital system.
9 till 12 weekdays.
Professor John Horowitz.
In South Australian health, we should not be jumping from one emergency to another emergency simply because we don't have a good overall planning process.
SSA as Leon Biner. SSA as AA.
There's no blueprints to your new custom-built Beechwood home. Well, not yet anyway. But together with Beechwood, it won't take long to turn your ideas into sketches, then drawings, and finally a home you can live a beautiful life in. That's the really exciting thing about building with Beechwood Homes. They'll build the home you want. So collect your thoughts, your ideas, your Pinterest boards, whatever, and let's talk. Because life's good. It's even better in a Beechwood home.
Can I have a flat white to take away, thanks?
Sure, that'll be $10.
Sorry?
But the cafe down the road has the same coffee beans and the same milk for only $4.
Yeah, well, ours is $10, Dal.
Ah, I see.
Should have gone to Specsavers, because whether you're buying coffee or hearing aids, you shouldn't have to pay top dollar for top-of-the-range features. Book a free 15-minute hearing check today at specsavers.com.au/hearing. Conditions apply.
What if your next holiday was always parked just outside the front door? Dave Benson Caravans sell your next holiday, and unlike an expensive overseas holiday, your dollar remains as an asset, your caravan. With over 120 new or used caravans and campers on display under one roof, the DBC Caravan Professionals can tailor your next family holiday to your lifestyle and needs. Your Australian journey awaits and begins at Dave Benson Caravans, 64 Grand Junction Road, Kilburn.
If you're an employer and want South Australian people, this is what you can get when you post a job nationally. Lots of interest, but it's overwhelming. But if you're after a local, you can now also post to a free South Australian job board. And if you need help, Recruit Smart will assist you to filter and find the best people faster. Recruitsmart.com.au, a South Australian family business. It's quick and easy to post jobs online. Recruitsmart.com.au, helping you find the best people faster.
We open our doors to people we trust and care about. And for over 85 years, South Australians have been opening their doors to Rest Haven. In turn, we've been opening doors to an easier, better life at home. From personal care to help with the shopping and social outings, you'll welcome the care that Rest Haven brings.
You can trust 9 News is live and local. Weeknights at 5, nightly at 6. 9 News.
The new FIVEaa Player app lets you listen to all your favourite FIVEaa shows, news and podcasts wherever you go. Download it now from the App Store.
You're listening to FIVEaa Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
21 minutes after 7. I was staggered to read the results of a new national study that has found there's been a 50% drop-off in girls studying STEM beyond high school. So this is science, tech, engineering, mathematics subjects. And that's the umbrella term that describes all the sorts of things. From biology fits in that as well, for example. We're doing well, it seems, getting girls studying these things in high school relatively to where it has been. But 36% of girls study STEM subjects in year 11 and 12, only 18% to go on and do it then after years 11 and 12, which I found really interesting given I follow a lot of science communicators and people on social media because I love astronomy and space and all that kind of stuff. And that seems to be a really good split amongst the communications people. In fact, the best seem to be women.
Yeah.
So I was interested to read that behind
the woman
scenes,
we had on after the Mars probe.
Absolutely.
She was terrific.
She was sensational.
Yeah.
So what's
From
happening
Science
behind
magazine.
the scenes? Sarah Moran is the founder of Girl Geek Academy and joins us now. Sarah, good morning to you.
So, Sarah, what is the stumbling block here? What's stopping younger women from making the jump from high school into university?
Look, I think there's actually a couple of different stumbling blocks that women face into, and young girls as they're thinking about what they're going to be when they grow up and what they should pick. But as you've highlighted, it's quite a sharp drop-off, right? So year 10, all of a sudden not picking their subjects in years 11 and 12, and then into university not making those STEM subject selections. One thing is that women, young girls, they're good at so many things, but when it comes to making your, those determined career choices in high school, you only get to pick 6 subjects in year 11 and 12, and that can really start to limit people's choices. You spoke about some of the great women in science that you've heard from, but they, maybe aren't reaching the messages back into high school to be able to say, we can be role models for you. Come and join us. Come and join us in these great industries.
It's interesting over the last 20 years, there's been a big shift. And, speaking as someone who's in their 50s, journalism, as one example, used to be a wholly male-dominated profession, whereas now I think it would be at least, if not parity, then probably marginally more women than men working in journalism. Same in the law. Law was a very male profession for a very long time, but now the number of girls at school who go on to study law is off the charts. Is there a sort of blokiness still? I mean, I can remember at uni the engineers had a bit of a reputation for, pub crawls and all that sort of stuff. Is there a cultural sort of block that makes the uni study part of this less appealing for women?
Well, there definitely is when there's not more girls going into it together. So if you think about, what helps you be successful from very early on, it's, are my friends here? And if you don't have a girl gang around you, being able to be successful and talking to your mates and sort of saying, hey, what did you pick? What did you learn on the weekend? If you start to lose that representation of women early, then it really forces that drop-off quite quickly. In those formative years, when you're socialising at uni, you kind of need that connection. And the same through year 11 and 12 and those really tough times when it gets to the pointy end of some of those tests. Having that girl gang around you is really important. And so that's why we're starting to say, okay, let's look earlier back and how do we keep those groups of women and girls together, being friends, studying together, and making sure that we're really seeing that success into the longer term. There's
an interesting debate happening in the medical fraternity, I guess, here in South Australia at the moment with regard to the titles for surgeons. The Women's and Children's Hospital's done away with the idea that surgeons are known by Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so. They're just now doctor. There's a number of other medical institutions that have resisted that sort of change. Is something on that micro level important, do you think, to encouraging women into these roles or at least eliminating the idea that there is some sort of gender separation in these sorts of roles?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing. That's where we say there's so many stumbling blocks. So titles are important. For example, I'm the CEO of Girl Geek Academy, and when I'm speaking to young girls, be it in primary school or high school, I give them my card and I say, guess what? You know a CEO now, and you can call her anytime. And making sure that, from primary school all the way up, that women say, I could do that, I could be that. And, being able to be met by a doctor and just know them as a doctor, I could be a doctor too. So that representation really is super important.
Great to talk to you, Sarah. We hope some positive strides are made in this area because it does seem some good work's being done at the high school level. It just needs to flow on now beyond it. Sarah Moran is the founder of Girl Geek Academy. 26 minutes after 7, time to turn our attention to sport. Get $200 cash back on Bosch washer dryer packages. Last night, Rowie caught up with Paul Marsh, the CEO of the Players Association, to talk about everything from concussions to player longevity and health. Here's a bit of that conversation.
Concussion's the big bone, the big debate. Are you happy as an organisation where that's heading?
Oh, it's getting... I think we're getting into a better place, but the difficulty with concussion when you compare it to every other injury is you can't get a definitive sort of assessment of the injury. Like if you have done a hamstring or you've broken your leg, you can get a scan, you can understand actually the extent of the injury. You can't do that at the moment with a brain injury. So
you acknowledge CTE as an organisation,
yeah,
and do you think the AFL do?
Yes, I think they do.
Okay.
But again, you can't actually make that assessment until you did. So that's not that helpful in terms of trying to put rules in place or give players breaks if they're concussed during the season. So obviously we've gone to this mandatory 12-day break, which
happy with that?
Oh, I think it's a step in the right direction, but there are issues with that. And
well, Tom Duday's out, and he's got a suspected concussion.
Yeah, and we had dinner with Tom last night, and he thinks it may have been just a migraine which he suffers from. So you look at those ones and go, well, why is he missing a game? But the bigger picture here is taking a really conservative approach to what's a very, very serious injury. And so I think until we can get to sort of an objective assessment of these injuries, we're going to continue to have grey. But there's no doubt, I think we did an exercise a couple of weeks ago where there's been about 20 rule changes over the last decade to deal with concussion. And, it shows how seriously the industry is taking this issue.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's come a long way. And it's hard to argue. I mean, we argue the toss on things like the tribunal interpretation of collisions, but I think broadly speaking, the AFL's gone in the right direction on this front.
100%.
28 after 7, that was sport. Check out Stephen Rowe tonight. Toyota Land Cruiser 300 Series is coming to North Point Toyota. Register your interest today. It is the North Point way. Matt Abraham in a moment.
It's Australia's best at New Spot Motors MG. Pick up the MG ZS Compact SUV from just $21,990 drive away. Yes, just $21,990 drive away with 7-year unlimited kilometre kilometre warranty. No wonder it was voted 2021 Drive Car of the Year for best overall value. Book your MG test drive today at New Spot Motors, Hampstead Gardens and Salisbury Park. New Spot Motors for MG. MG, value since 1924. LVD 1743.
How do you know if the milk you're buying is local? Easy. Just look for 3 words. FIVEaa Milk Company. If the bottle you pick up has those 3 words on it, FIVEaa Milk Company, it's guaranteed to be local. It's guaranteed to be fresh too. And the big plus, you're supporting SA dairy farmers, and for that, we're forever grateful. 3 words. FIVEaa Milk Company. South Australian and proud of it.
Matt Abraham in a moment, brought to us by the great people at Mitre 10 who have some great deals to warm you up this winter.
How's this for a prescient live read? Is it raining outside? Rhetorical question. Well, it's about to be. Dry your clothes indoors with a By-Right 22 rail wing clothes airer, only $40.
Oh,
$40.
There might be a run on them today.
Yeah,
Get in before they run out.
Yeah, it's going to be like the Boxing Day sales.
It will be. Nothing beats the warmth of an open fire or combustion heater in winter. To make the job of splitting wood easier, grab a Spear & Jackson 2.7 kilo block splitter or a 2 kilo axe. They're only $49 each.
Nothing more entertaining.
They should jack the price. I mean, call me a cold-hearted capitalist, but they got to jack the prices on this stuff.
They're giving them away.
48 hours of rain and thunderstorms, come on.
That's right. And look, just because it's cold outdoors, it doesn't mean you can't entertain outdoors. Keep things toasty and comfy with a Gasmate patio heater, only $169.
Or you can really heat things up with a round fire pit and spark guard mesh lid, only $79.
Make winter warmer with help from your local Mitre 10. Shop in, store or online. That's mighty helpful, Mitre 10.
This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Showers increasing with a possible storm in 17 today. With the 7:30 news, I'm Mel Usher.
Woken with a stiff neck or sore back? Get a Physio Extra appointment today. 6 locations, physioextra.com.
The number of COVID exposure sites in SA is now officially 3. The On The Run at the Motorsport Park at Tailem Bend was confirmed as a location of concern last night. Anyone who was there between 7:20 and 8:15am on Friday, July 9 is required to get tested and isolate. Meantime, new testing requirements are now required for people arriving in South Australia from Greater Melbourne. Police Commissioner Grant Stevens says the changes came into force at midnight.
Anyone coming from the Greater Melbourne area will be required to have a COVID test within 24 hours of arriving in South Australia and must stay away from high-risk locations like nursing homes until they've had a negative result. The other change was requiring freight drivers to produce evidence of a COVID test within 48 hours before arriving in South Australia. So we need those drivers to do the right thing.
Mask wearing indoors has been brought back in Victoria as health officials race to contain 2 new outbreaks. 9's Stephanie Wacklewick has more.
Masks are now mandatory in all indoor spaces, including offices and secondary schools, the rules coming back into force overnight. Acting Chief Health Officer Dr Claire Looker released a statement just after 10:30 saying masks must also be worn outdoors if you can't maintain 1.5 metres distance from people who aren't from your household. Health officials are also considering limiting visitors to the household, reducing capacity in hospitality venues and seated service only. Authorities are concerned about the jump in new cases and exposure sites after a family breached isolation and 3 infected removalists failed to wear masks on the job, with concerns Victoria could be plunged into another snap lockdown as talks continue this morning.
The impact of Sydney's tighter lockdown rules could be reflected in today's COVID case numbers. Restrictions were tightened last Friday night, and experts say it takes around 5 days for those effects to be seen. However, Premier Gladys Berejiklian is still expecting the figures to bounce around. Moderna's coronavirus vaccine is a step closer to being approved for use in Australia. The company has applied to the medicines regulator for provisional registration. It's expected the first Moderna doses will be available from September. A unit on Palmer Road at Elizabeth Park is looking a little worse for wear this morning. Senior Constable Rebecca Stokes says a Ford Territory went through the front wall after midnight.
It caused significant damage to the house and a Toyota RAV4 that was parked in the driveway. And another car, a Mazda sedan, also parked in the driveway, was hit by falling debris.
Fortunately, the occupants were not injured. The driver, a 38-year-old Smithfield Plains man, was arrested and charged with a string of offences. A man has been arrested over the racist abuse of English players following their loss to Italy in the Euro 2020 final. The 37-year-old handed himself into British police, accused of sending tweets directed at the 3 players who missed penalties. Now turning to 5AA Sport.
Get $200 cash back on Bosch washer dryer packages at Adelaide Appliance Gallery, home of Mr Dishwasher.
And a bit of girl power, Tom Wren.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see, isn't it, Mel? Port Adelaide will officially submit its application for a women's licence today. That's so it can enter the AFLW competition for the 2022-23 season. Meantime, power forward Connor Rosie admits there's a chance he may miss this Saturday night's clash against St Kilda. That's because of a niggling knee injury. The 21-year-old telling Rowie today's training session will be crucial.
Yeah, there's a potential this weekend, depending on how I go at the main session. They're going to give it a test, but there is a potential that I miss this week just to make sure that we get it back to 100%. I don't want to be carrying it coming into finals. So, if there's any risk involved, then I might be having a spell this week. But, like always, I'll be trying to get up.
Meantime, Geelong's players and staff have spent the night in a Perth quarantine hotel after flying in from Victoria yesterday. The game will go ahead despite WA closing its borders to Victoria. Star Paddy Dangerfield says they learned about the new arrangements while still in the air.
Senior management that had got wind of a bit of information, and then we were told that we were going from the plane straight to the hotel, and then we'd sort of wait, directions from there. So it's quite similar, to be honest, to playing interstate last year.
Queensland has won the third and final Origin match against Queensland 20-18, but the Blues still won the series 2-1. And there are fresh reports in the last half hour or so that Lionel Messi has signed a new 5-year deal with Barcelona. The 34-year-old has spent his entire career with the Spanish Giants, and it's understood the new deal will see him take a substantial pay cut. Still pretty tidy pay some, though, I reckon, Mel. That's the 5AA Sport.
I'd put my money on it. Now checking 5AA traffic.
Air Conditioning Warehouse Sales has Adelaide's biggest air conditioning brands and best prices. airwaresales.com.au.
At Locklear's got a burst water main, Sir Donald Bradburn Drive near the airport. Crowford's on the freeway. Speeds are reduced both directions for works. Also a fair bit of fog in the area too, so do take some care around that area. Roadworks this morning, South Road near Addison Road, Black Forest, both directions affected there. And cameras Grant Road, Ranella, and Hallett Road at Wattle Park. Can't make it to the Adelaide Central Market? Let our market come to you. Adelaide Central Market online brings your favourite local produce to your door. Order now for next trade day delivery. It's easy. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Audi Solitaire, Metro Dealer of the Year. Visit audisolitaire.com.au.
Showers increasing with a possible storm today, 17, dropping to 14 tomorrow, showers and windy. Saturday, the showers and the winds will ease, also 14. Right now, it's 11 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
If your sliding door has become a scraping, dragging, pain in the butt door, get on to rollerco.com.au and get the parts you need to make it slide again. Or just call Rollerco and they'll tell you what parts you need. I guess you could try your local hardware store, if you feel like a sausage in bread. But if I were you, I'd call Rollerco instead. 8266 2554. Rollerco. We'll get you rolling.
Hi, Bronte Manuel from Toop and Toop. It's cold outside, but the Adelaide property market is hot right now, and eager buyers don't want to wait until spring to secure their dream home. To speak to one of our award-winning team about the value of your home, go to toop.com.au.
The new 5AA Player app lets you listen to all your favourite 5AA shows, news and podcasts wherever you go. Download it now from the App Store.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
22 to 8, John Blake before 8, the Police Commissioner Grant Stevens after 8 o'clock. Then we're off to Tokyo to just get a sense of what it's like being in Tokyo right now to cover the Olympic Games. They're 8 days away. I love it when Matt Abraham can't wait to get started.
When he breaks his chair.
She wasn't going to be a chair-breaking reference, which too just shows you're champing at the bit. But when you're already tweeting before you come on air, I know it's going to be fun.
9 to 10, out of 10, every time.
Your local Mitre 10 is everything you need to keep you warm this winter. That's mighty helpful, Mitre 10. Mr. Abraham, good morning.
Morning, Will. Good morning, David. I was actually excited about being on the number one breakfast program.
We don't talk about that stuff.
Why not? I used to.
I remember you used to.
I used to. I used to love being number one because it's the only time I ever won anything in my entire, except a raffle at St Joseph's Convent, Kingswood in primary school when I won a doll with little roll-up eyes. Yeah, plastic, like a doll with. That was it for me.
A doll.
Sorry. So enjoy it. That's what I anyway, let's not dwell on that. No, I was tweeting this morning that is the police commissioner seriously now and threatening to tighten restrictions as we had pointlessly a couple of weeks ago in South Australia for 1 week? Are we going to tighten them because, surprise, surprise, at a country servo, Tailem Bend, there were 25 QR codes in an hour when these bozo removalist firm were in town, and I mean that in the nicest possible way.
I reckon bozos are generous. They don't even know how many trucks they were in.
I think they knew how many trucks they were in, and I think they knew where they were. But anyway, apparently there were communication difficulties. So there's 76 credit card transactions, 25 QR codes. This is, as a result of this, they're seriously threatening, and it is a threat, to tighten restrictions for the entire South Australia and for the entire city. So we're going to go back to choirs not going to be able to sing, as you know, a personal bugbear of mine, because of a country survey. Now, you're never going to get 100% compliance, I think, and less so probably in a country survey. I think surveys are probably where you have the least compliance of QR codes.
Well, the more forgetting.
The more forgetting.
In and out.
But, why not have 100% compliance for driving with a licence? Why not have 100% compliance for driving a registered car? Or the double? Because it seems to me that many of our fatalities involve drivers who are on bail, unregistered, and have never held a licence or haven't held a licence for 5 years.
And speeding.
Okay, you're never going to get that, are you? You're never going to get 100% compliance. We've set a target of 80% vaccination level in South Australia. Now, I think that'd be great. But there are a lot of people saying that that's going to be very difficult to achieve. It's a very high bar to set. Now, maybe you need to aim high. I am wondering whether we're seeing sort of administration fatigue coming from certainly Nicola Spurrier, who I think was getting a bit ragged around the edges a couple of weeks ago, which you tend to do when you've got Chris Kenny at your press conference. And the police commissioner last night looked to me, he looked like someone who'd rather be back doing his day job.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. But I actually feel though, man, and I've got to admit, and I've said on air, this time a fortnight ago, I was frantically checking the news every hour to see if we were going to go on a lockdown because I was so geared up to take the kids to Kangaroo Island and wanted a proper family break after a long stretch at work and was really looking forward to it. And I thought, don't tell me. I feel gratitude towards the commissioner, and whatever the backstory is about did Professor Spurrier want to shut the state down, it felt to me like in the end, sanity prevailed. We didn't go into a hard lockdown, and also,
but we didn't.
I can remember,
didn't need to at the time, did we? There was not one. There wasn't a case here. Remember that was a preemptive lockdown.
But it wasn't a hard lockdown. We didn't. It
was a preemptive tightening of restrictions.
Yeah,
preemptive. I know what you're saying, David. We do have probably the best freedom here of any state in Australia at the moment, and have had throughout the pandemic. I don't know about Northern Territory. That might be the same. From the
bugger all people to worry about.
Well, that's right. Right from the start, right. Even when we had the Ruby Princess and everyone was panicking, more than starting to panic. It's become a state of normality now. Even then, we were allowed to exercise without masks. We were allowed to go fishing. We were allowed to play golf, and whatever else outside. We did have. We took a risk there, but I think it was very, very welcomed by people. And by and large, that's continued. But I do think there's a bit of, as I said, administration fatigue creeping in. and
But
also
it-
some panic creeping in.
But is that top down or bottom up? Because I get the sense, and I reckon the old Telstra Straw Mount Barker text line bolsters the case, that within the community there is still a really strong batten down the hatches sentiment where so many people out there go, if New South Wales has gone to put, then shut the borders.
I don't think it's an argument about shutting the borders. I feel that. I agree. It's when you reimpose restrictions on daily life in South Australia that appear to be responding to a threat that's not actually here. So when you are making people drink sitting down, not letting choirs practice, for instance, or perform, and yet at the same time allowing 50,000 people into Adelaide Oval, to cheer on.
Yes.
That I don't think there's an argument about closing the borders. Like if things
part
are
of
going
it-
nuts in Victoria, shut the borders.
But to my point about it being community driven, I mean, one really weird example that just got me scratching my head, and it's hardly a massive imposition, but it just seems to be an example of how paranoia, baseless paranoia, still exists in the community. Sunday week, we got my son's 4th birthday party. We're getting some little hired Dodgem cars at a community centre. He's got 9 friends.
I
coming
wish you were
from...
my dad. When I was a
that
kid.
sounds fun.
It's going to be good. It's going to be really good.
Bugger pony rides.
So, that's right. So there's 9 kids coming, and the community centre that we're doing it at has said that because of the scourge of the global pandemic, we can't have platters for the kids. We can't put out fruits on sticks, sausage rolls, and little ham and cheese croissants on a platter, because these kids, none of whom have or are within cooey of anybody who has the coronavirus, they can't share the stuff off the platter. I've got to make individual bento box type. Here's yours, Cooper.
But at
here's
home
yours,
they
Harrison.
could. If you had the party at home, correct. If
Yeah.
you had
Yeah.
9 kids at home,
It'd be the businesses.
they could be
COVID
picking their
management plan.
nose and stuffing the fingers in like kids do.
Well, SA Netball still has a standing advice that I don't think is even really being followed that vigilantly, that you can only have one parent watching you at netball. Now, why is that the case? You're all standing around outside.
I reckon Matt's point about...
But that's community-driven.
Administration fatigue is, I think, is a really good point. It's a really interesting concept because it's starting to take on the complexion of a city under siege, a medieval city under siege where the Huns at the gates and we're all getting tired of food rationing and, you got to do this and the other. In sporting context, it's like the Euro final where England scored first, and for a long period of time, it just felt like Italy were going to equalise. And as an England fan, you get to a point, you go, can we just get to that point so we can move on?
Can we have the
so we can
race?
start playing again? Because we're sick of this mentality. It feels like the New South Wales situation has made it feel like, well, we're sitting here helpless and we're trying to hold back the tide.
Yeah. And we're starting. There's a story in the paper you write for, one of the about 12 newspapers you write for, David, the Australian, today about sort of fatigue from this, but also the impact it's having on people. People are, being driven in inverted commas to vaccinate now because of just total fatigue. And I think that's something we have to be careful of. I force QR compliance. There needs to be a lot more of that. But in terms of restrictions, let's not just go bouncing back and forth. So if you'd cancelled your holiday to KI, okay, that would have been a disappointment to you. That would have been big lost income to that tourism operator.
The house was $1,600. I would have spent $500 at the Penashore IGA. We spent $130 going to Raptor Domain. We went to False Cape Wineries, bought 2 excellent platters.
You don't need a QR code.
I bought 2 bottles of Shiraz. They're excellent. Cabernet Merlot, 2 bottles of Sauv Blanc, bottle of Chardonnay, bottle of port, $150 worth of plonk there. We went to the Caltex in Kingscote and bought a kilo of King George Whiting, kilo of Gar. That's a good little fishmonger there, the one in Kingscote, because it's all straight out of the backstairs passage. It's sensational. $58 a kilo there, King George Whiting.
We underestimate too the impact beyond our borders of decisions to slam them shut, and certainly no one's arguing the toss on New South Wales at the moment, but we've seen instances in the last fortnight where, like the NT, it happened where there was very little risk at play. We've said couple of times on air, there's a small tourism operator in Catherine that we were speaking to. He said there was about 8 of them when before COVID, and there's 2 or 3 now. Yeah. And he's made the point, because we got talking with South Australians, and he said, the only reason I still operate is because South Australia was the first people to open their border to the NT. And there's sort of this cavalier attitude with, there's a risk. No matter how small, we should take the sledgehammer to it, because what do we care? But what we don't end up caring about is fellow Australians who go broke and out of business, and multiple people that worked at this place had to get a job there because they were unemployed for the last 6 months. But again, South Australia opened the border up; it saved jobs. There's a really ugly element of federalism too about this whole thing.
It's become state of origin.
Yeah.
But so much of what we're talking about, Matt, doesn't it get back to poor old ScoMo? It's not a race when it comes to the vaccine.
Yeah, I know, months back, we were talking about whether this was going to affect his, election chances and all that sort of stuff. I think it's really starting to bite now. You do get this this feeling that, it's not Scotty, as somebody said, it's not Scotty from marketing, but it's Scotty from the mailroom. That he is probably unkind, isn't it? I'm poor old Scotty. But that the federal government...
It's unkind on people who work in mailrooms.
That's right. But the federal government doesn't feel like it's driving this consistently and hasn't. It just hasn't had its hands on the wheel.
Quiz up on the Advertiser, that's a nationally syndicated article, so it's been read on every News Corp site in the country. A survey. Do you think Australia has squandered its COVID-19 advantage? As of yesterday, 14,600 people had voted, which is...
That's pretty high. That's higher than any news poll.
Is it ever? 74% voted yes, our vaccine rollout is an embarrassment. 4% said it's working well. 74% voted yes, our vaccine rollout is an embarrassment.
All right, let's...
That's going to have an impact.
Yep.
That's going to have an impact, yeah.
100%.
Let's write some spin.
5 to 10, out of 10, every time.
Speaking of which, of course, Kevin Rudd reportedly rang the head of FIVEaa and jollied them up a little bit. Something that didn't go over that well with the federal government. Have a listen to this.
This is a grassy knoll story. I respect that individuals will sometimes take initiatives, and we welcome and thank them. But did it make a difference? No.
That's Greg Hunt, Federal Health Minister. And we welcome you, but really, rack off.
You're living in a Walter Mitty fantasy land, Kev.
2 out of 10 to Greg Hunt.
There was not a lot of spin there, was there? It was very blunt. Very good.
We got the Commissioner coming in 25 minutes, Matt. You're welcome to stick around.
No, it's all right. I'll go out in my car, I'll be defected all over.
Oh, don't get me started.
Mate,
I got my speeding fine here.
Oh!
Yeah. You brought it in to take up with the Commissioner. No, that'll be good.
I reckon he'll wipe that off after your last half hour.
Oh. Good on you, Matt.
Your local sycophant.
Mitre 10 has everything you need to keep warm this winter. That's mighty helpful, Mitre 10. Let's check traffic thanks to Air Conditioning Warehouse Sales. They've got Adelaide's biggest air conditioning brands and best prices. airwaresales.com.au.
At Black Forest, traffic light malfunction on South Road and Cross Road. Erbray, Cross Road and Portrush Road. Got a broken down truck on the side of the road there. Lockleys, a burst water main, Sir Donald Bradman Drive near the airport, and Crayford speed restrictions on the freeway still apply for works in both directions. Heavy fog in the area too. Do take some extra care. Roadworks, Findon Road near Winona Street at Findon, both directions, and cameras at Commercial Road, Seaford Meadows, and Dyson Road at Christie's Beach. Hungry? How about a burrito or bowl from Guzmani Gomez for just $9.90? Choose some delicious pulled pork, grilled chicken, slow cooked beef and more. Just $9.90 at GYG. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Finally, you can get back to the Lion. Get back to Slow Cook Sundays. Every Sunday, the Lion's Kitchen will be roasting up a storm with an ever-evolving selection of your favourites. Lamb, beef, pork with the best crackling in town. Head to lionhotel.com.au to find out what's new on the menu.
Back to the Lion.
Get back to Sundays, perfected with slow cooked roasts. Get back to where you belong. The Lion, North Adelaide.
I'm Kathy Nagel, the Chief Executive of Western Hospital, Henley Beach. With the rising cost of health insurance, some people don't know that you can pay for your procedures in a private hospital, which means no lengthy waiting times in the public system. Once you have a referral to a specialist from your GP, call us for a quote on 8159 1200. That's 8159 1200. Western Hospital, your hospital that cares. For more information, visit westernhospital.com.au.
If the thought of this as a job drives you crazy, you might want a job like this. Here's Chris from ASIC Careers to tell you how.
Thanks, Rowie. ASIC Careers is growing, and we need more drivers to keep our promise of perfect service. So if you want a career that takes you places, get in touch with ASIC Couriers. Don't send it, ace it.
No one wants to spend their weekend in emergency. So if you hurt yourself on a Saturday or Sunday, Dr. Greg Keane says come and see SportsMed instead.
The doctors at our weekend injury clinic can treat any sporting or orthopaedic injuries right away. You won't have to wait all afternoon.
And a standard consult costs less than a private hospital emergency department, right?
Much less.
World-class care without the wait. SportsMed.
Start living life again after your injury.
Sportsmed.com.au.
60 months interest-free at Harvey Norman. Purchase with 60 months interest-free and receive a bonus gift card up to the value of $500. Shop for laptops, printers, TVs, fridges, washing machines, lounges, beds and more. Minimum financed amount $1,000. Approved applicants only. 60 equal monthly payments. Interest applies if you do not comply with terms and conditions. Fees and exclusions apply. Purchase with 60 months interest-free and receive a bonus gift card valued at up to $500 at Harvey Norman.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube.
The new 5AA Player app lets you listen to all your favourite 5AA shows, news and podcasts wherever you go. Download it now from the App Store.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
4 to 8. Well, we knew it was going to be wet. We didn't expect it to be this wild. The weather story for the next 48 hours. Chelsea Carey for 9 News has the details. Morning to you, Chelsea.
Good morning. Yes, we've got a very wet and windy a few days on the way. At the moment, though, it is quite literally still the calm before the storm. It should be a dry morning in Adelaide, but we do have a road weather alert in place at the moment as fog is reducing visibility through the hills. But really, the showers will start to increase from around the mid to late afternoon across Adelaide. Also, the chance of a thunderstorm around that time today. And we will notice that the winds picking up later in the day. In fact, a severe weather warning is in place for 11 SA districts, including Adelaide Metro here and the Mount Lofty Ranges. And we could see damaging winds in excess of 90 kilometres an hour tonight and likely into tomorrow, because tomorrow is really the main day of impact for Adelaide. We have 10 to 20 millimetres of rain across the city and suburbs, more through the hills, and these potentially dangerous winds. Also the chance of hail, because conditions will just become so cold. We have a top of 14 degrees tomorrow. And then Saturday, we have the showers and winds continuing in the morning, possibly more hail. So take note of those playing sport on Saturday morning. It will be quite wild out there. And the FIVEaa and the Weather Bureau held a joint press conference yesterday that I went to, and really their key message at the moment is they're quite concerned about those on school holidays who might be camping at the moment, because these winds could bring trees crashing down across Adelaide and through the hills over the next few days. There is a chance of flooding through the hills as well. Over the next 3 days in total, we could see between 50 to 100 millimetres of rain through the Mount Lofty Ranges.
Jeez.
Yeah, very wet out there. Flood watch has also been issued. But then we will get to the other side of it with conditions starting to ease Saturday afternoon and into Sunday. But yeah, guys, really quite a hairy couple of days on the way.
Good on you, Chelsea. Thank you for that. Chelsea Carey for 9 News. It's time for Wallace Fog. Thanks to Aussie Fast Transport Solutions, Interstate Freight Distribution, Warehousing and Local Adelaide Couriers. Call Aussie Fast, 13 13 64.
Now, the latest news with Wallace Fogg. Good morning, early risers. This is Wallace Fogg with another 5AA news update. New South Wales Premier Gladys Premier Gladys said the latest 2-week lockdown extension is necessary because for a long time now there have been far too many people in New South Wales. She said the overpopulation crisis is worsening and keeping the streets clear of people was the best approach at remembering how things used to be. South Australian Premier Mr Stephen Marshall said he dreams of a day when Adelaide can be just as congested as Sydney and is doing everything he can to increase our population at a head-spinning rate. His government, he said, was all about jobs, so let's get the people in and then try to find them a job. In other news, the Adelaide City Council has decided that the New Year's Eve fireworks display will go ahead this year, but with smaller crowds. In a special meeting of the council, it was decided that they should put on at least one thing that the general public don't mind paying for. Some of the ideas put forward as replacements for the fireworks were a midnight exhibition of how parking meters have evolved over the years, hosted by Keith Conlon, an origami workshop where people could fold their rates notices into interesting shapes, including the swan, and also that one where you put your thumbs and index fingers into the holes and go like that and then open the flap and tell your fortune. One councillor reportedly said, let them eat cake, but this was vehemently denied by council officials. These ideas were ultimately voted down by the council, but it was noted that the Adelaide City ratepayer can only tolerate a certain amount of fun in any given 12-month period. And that's the latest. I'm Wallace Fogg. More 5AA news at 8 o'clock, or as close as we can get.
You can trust 9 News is live and local. Weeknights at 5, nightly at 6. 9 News.
Online, on DAB Digital Radio, and on 1395 AM. Talking Adelaide. This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Showers increasing, a possible storm and 17 today. With the 8 o'clock news, I'm Mel Usher.
Physio Extra is a registered NDIS provider, so let them support you in achieving your goals. PhysioExtra.com.
Authorities have identified the on-the-run service station at the Motorsport Park at Tailem Bend as a third high-risk exposure site linked to the infectious removalists who visited SA late last week. Anyone who was there between 7:20 and 8:15am on Friday, July 9, is required to get COVID tested and isolate. A fourth site is still being investigated. Meantime, it's been revealed there were only 25 QR code check-ins at the Tailem Bend Shell service station and adjoining cafe exposure sites, but 76 credit card transactions. Police Commissioner Grant Stevens is urging South Australians to remain vigilant.
I can't stress highly enough just how important it is for SA Health to be able to get on top of a possible outbreak by accessing that data. The data only exists if people do the right thing and QR code in. It's absolutely critical for people to do that at this time.
As of midnight, the rules for entering SA from Greater Melbourne were tightened. Hotel quarantine is once again in the spotlight as well after another possible case of transmission in an Adelaide Medi hotel. Health experts claim Victoria has no option other than to go into another immediate COVID lockdown. Victorians are being ordered to mask up again after 11 new cases emerged in Melbourne from 2 separate outbreaks. Associate Professor James Trower at Monash University says lockdown is inevitable.
Yeah, well, yes, I would. I think we've seen an increasing number of cases and exposure sites over the last 2 or 3 days, and some of them it's hard to know exactly where that's all going, of course. Like we've seen some pretty high-risk exposure sites like the supermarket and the MCG.
Health officials are hoping the impact of Sydney's tougher lockdown rules will be reflected in today's COVID figures. Nine's Clinton Maynard has more.
Experts say it takes at least 5 days for changes in COVID restrictions to have an effect. Last Friday, the lockdown rules were dramatically tightened after the original stay-at-home orders failed to contain Sydney's outbreak. It's hoped infection figures released this morning will start to show the lockdown is working, but Premier Gladys Berejiklian is still expecting to bounce around.
Tokyo has recorded a worrying surge in COVID cases just over a week out from the start of the Olympic Games. Nine's Damien Ryan reports from Tokyo.
On Wednesday, there were 1,149 new infections in the Olympic host city, up 229 from a week ago. It's the first time the cases have surged past the 1,000 mark in 2 months. And as our archery team later tonight will become the first members of the Australian squad to check into the athletes' village, the refugee team for these Olympics has been forced to delay its arrival here after a member of the delegation tested positive to the coronavirus while at a training camp in Doha.
The World Health Organization has registered a 10% increase in global coronavirus infections in the past week. Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says the fight against the virus has intensified thanks to the Delta variant.
The pandemic is not over anywhere. We are experiencing a worsening public health emergency that further threatens lives, livelihoods, and a sound global economic recovery.
It's full steam ahead for the Royal Adelaide Show. Despite the threat of COVID, a cap of $50,000 a day has been announced, and Rachel Talbot from the show says people will have to pre-buy their tickets online. They won't be available at the gate.
So they'll need to go to theshow.com.au to pre-purchase, and when they're on that website, then they will need to select the day that they want to go to the show and buy their tickets for that particular day.
For the first time in its 36-year history, Neighbours will go from 5 to 4 episodes a week. The change will take effect from Monday, July 26. Now turning to 5AA Sport.
Get $200 cash back on Bosch washer dryer packages at Adelaide Appliance Gallery, home of Mr Dishwasher.
Here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Mel. More details are expected to be released on what the AFL will do this weekend as uncertainty surrounds the fixture amid the latest COVID outbreak in Victoria. The Power are still set to play in Melbourne on Saturday night at Marvel Stadium. The Crows take on West Coast here in Adelaide on Sunday in what will be Brodie Smith's 200th game. The 29-year-old telling Rowie it will be a big occasion.
Yeah, it means a lot. It's probably hasn't really sunk in yet, and we haven't moved on to the game yet. We'll do that tomorrow, but definitely one I've been looking forward to all year, and obviously knew it was coming. And Mum made sure that I knew that I had to play every game because we're in Ballarat next week, and she did not want to go down to Ballarat.
Let's get to other sport. New South Wales has failed to claim a clean sweep in its Origin series against Queensland, going down 20-18 in Game 3 in Queensland. The Open Championship will get underway this afternoon, our time, at the Royal St George's Golf Club in England. 11 Aussies will be in the field, including Adam Scott, Mark Leishman and Jason Day. The NBA Finals continue this morning with Milwaukee hosting Phoenix in Game 4 of their best-of-7 series. The Suns currently lead that series 2-1. To cricket, Australia will be looking to snap its horrible run of form when it takes on the West Indies in Game 4 of their T20 series. The Windies have already clinched the series after winning the first 3 games. Lionel Messi has reportedly agreed to take a 50% pay cut and extend his stay at Spanish football giants Barcelona for another 5 years. And Tadej Pogacar has extended his Tour de France lead with a win in Stage 17. Australian Ben O'Connor is still 5th overall, but he's 7.5 minutes off the pace. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now checking 5AA traffic.
Air Conditioning Warehouse Sales has Adelaide's biggest air conditioning brands and best prices. airwaresales.com.au.
At Black Forest, the boom gates are stuck down at Cross Road and South Road, causing delays. Avoid the area if you can. Erbray, Cross Road and Portrush Road, got a broken down truck there. That's on the side of the road. Lockley's burst water main, Sir Donald Bradman Drive near the airport. And Crayford's got speed restrictions on the freeway. They still apply for works in both directions, and heavy fog in the area as well this morning. Cameras at Hallett Road, Waddell Park and Hillier Road at Ranella. Wander into winter with 25% off almost everything at Oz Design Furniture. Save on selected sofas, dining tables, homewares and more. Ends Monday at Oz Design Furniture. T's and C's apply. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Audi Solitaire, Metro Dealer of the Year. Visit audisolitaire.com.au.
17 today, but showers increasing and a possible storm. Showers and windy tomorrow 14. Saturday showers and winds easing 14. Right now it's 11 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
When people walk through the doors at Pals, the first thing they say is wow. Not only because of the size and the selection, but also because of the team. Sam and Jamie have tasted every drop. They and their team can recommend a whiskey that's just as good as that hard-to-find Japanese one, if they don't have it, that is. Or a beautiful red that's reminiscent of that outstanding cellar door you once travelled so far to visit. Parafield Airport Liquor Store. Pals, next to Roulette's Tavern, Kings Road, Parafield.
Thinking ducted reverse cycle for your home? Then buy a Fujitsu system from Mannix right now and get these 3 special winter offers. 1, get up to $450 Fujitsu free money. 2, get a $450 cash buy discount. And 3, get all your outlets installed absolutely free. That's a minimum saving of over $1,000. And the more outlets you install, the more you save. Don't put it off. This offer must end August 31st. Conditions apply. Phone for a free quote or go online anytime.
North Point Toyota has tons of quality used vehicles available, with new used vehicles arriving daily. There's so many benefits to buying your used vehicle from North Point Toyota, like their certified pre-owned program, offering benefits that no private seller could, including guaranteed future value, 12-month assist on Toyota certified used vehicles, plus all used vehicles come with a 7-day exchange. It's the North Point way. Hillcrest, Prospect and Port Augusta, or northpointtoyota.com.au.
I'm Kathy Nagel, the Chief Executive of Western Hospital Henley Beach. Western Hospital GP Clinic is currently running our FluVax clinic. Book online for an appointment which suits your needs. Our GP practice offers individualised care in a modern clinic with appointments which ensure your concerns are heard. You're also welcome to utilise all of the services of our hospital without having to travel anywhere else. Western Hospital, your hospital that cares. For more information, visit westernhospital.com.au.
In the last hour on Adelaide's 5AA.
Sarah Moran is the founder of Girl Geek Academy and joins us now.
Quite a sharp drop-off, right? Year 10, all of a sudden not picking their subjects in years 11 and 12, and then into university not making those STEM subject selections. I mean, one thing is that women, young girls, they're good at so many things, but when it comes to making your determined career choices in high school, you only get to pick 6 subjects in years 11 and 12. That can really start to limit people's choices.
Mr. Abraham, good morning.
I do think there's a bit of, as I said, administration fatigue creeping in, and also some panic creeping in.
But is that top down or bottom up? Because I get the sense that within the community there is still a really strong batten down the hatches sentiment, where so many people out there go, if New South Wales has gone to put, then shut the borders.
I don't think it's an argument about shutting the borders. When you reimpose restrictions on daily life in South Australia that appear to be responding to a threat that's not actually here.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
11 after 8, breaking 8 coming up in a moment. Then the Police Commissioner, Grant Stevens. We've got a host of terrific questions that listeners have been sending from the Telstra Store Mount Barker text line. We'll get to some more of your entries on that. A lot came following Matt Abraham's chat too. You can obviously call us at any time on 8223 0000. Then after 8:30, we're off to Tokyo. We think it's strange in Adelaide at the moment as we wait for a potential reintroduction of some restrictions. Well, you try working in Tokyo where you can't raise your voice too loud.
Faster, stronger, higher, quieter. The new motto for the Olympic Games.
Brendan Shakes, Channel 10 Journo, will join us after 8:30. Made the trek from Adelaide Airport to Tokyo in just the last 48 hours. So we'll chat with him in about 20 minutes' time.
Well, everyone's talking about how wet, how windy and how cold it's going to be over the next 3 days. We should spare a thought to those in the community who are doing it particularly tough, sleeping rough on the streets and relying on outreach services through the city's many homeless organisations to stay warm and keep something resembling a roof over their heads. It's likely that a code blue is going to be called for the next 4 days. And the backdrop to that is the upheaval in the homeless sector here in South Australia as a result of the government's tendering process, which attracted a degree of controversy. Now, there was a report in the Tiser a couple of weeks ago that a last-minute deal was done to save some jobs and to protect some of the services that are provided by those homeless services that missed out on the same level of funding that they enjoyed after the alliance led by Lutheran Care won the contract to provide services. Now, we understand that despite this deal, there are still some very serious pressures on the two organisations that are near and dear to our hearts here at 5AA, namely Catherine House, which is a women's domestic violence service. They lost $1.2 million, which is a third of their annual funding. And the Hutt Street Centre, which lost the same amount of money, that has had serious effects on their ability to care for the 2,000 odd homeless people they look after each year. Now, we understand that at Hutt Street, there were 20 staff that were let go on June 30, and that due to job losses, the Hutt Street Centre Wellbeing Centre, which is a place for homeless people to kick back and relax and chat with the staff, that's now only opening until 5 p.m. And we also understand that purely in order to keep the centre open overnight, they've had to get 6 staff to volunteer to work 2 split shifts just to keep services going over the evening. So it sounds like any suggestion that it's all sweetness and light in the homeless sector is baseless. And I've also been told by the opposition's Nat Cook that the opposition is referring the entire tendering process to the Auditor General, yet to receive a reply. But it will be interesting to see if the Auditor General looks into the manner in which this process was handled.
14 after 8, Police Commissioner Grant Stevens joins us on the line. Commissioner, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
Thanks for joining us, Commissioner. Can we just start by getting a bit of a broad overview of where we're at? We were saying at the start of the show that thanks to these removalists, it looks like the coronavirus has gone on a bit of a road trip through from McLaren Vale back through to Sydney. Specifically in South Australia, what are your key concerns now?
Oh, I think the concerns we have are that we had a positive person who was one of the removalists. He was symptomatic and positive whilst he was here in South Australia. And we know that he had contact with the family that he was providing that service for. We also know that they've stopped at 2 locations, one on the way in and one on their way out. So we are dealing with the potential that these individuals may have transmitted the virus to other people who are in and about those locations. So it's sort of our obligation to make sure that we are positioning ourselves to respond to that. So the first step is the contact tracing. And I suppose, if I can be clear here, I'm not threatening anybody in relation to what might occur. I'm probably being as upfront as I possibly can in relation to the sorts of things that are being considered to make sure that we're ready to deal with COVID if it gets in. The contact tracing is the big effort, though, and that's been going non-stop since we became aware of the positive cases in South Australia. So we're hopeful that we don't have any more exposure sites. It has been a bit of a challenge getting the information from the individuals because they're back in New South Wales. There are language barriers, and I think it would be a very different situation if we were talking to people that we could sit down with face-to-face and get that information from them directly.
Is it just a language barrier, or have these blokes been playing silly buggers a bit too?
Well, SA Health have advised me that they've had no specific issues in terms of cooperation. I have heard other stories from other jurisdictions. I can say that 2 of the individuals have voluntarily handed over their phones so we can do a data download of their phones and assist in identifying their whereabouts during their time in South Australia. So I don't have anything that suggests they're not being as helpful as we would expect them to be.
Mm. So there was a 4th exposure site there was some concern about late yesterday on Dukes Highway. Have you got any more information on that one?
Well, the only 2 exposure sites that I've had confirmed at this point in time are the Shell service station at Tailem Bend and the adjoining cafe, and the OTR at the Bend just outside of Tailem Bend. So they're the 2 places that we are focusing on at the moment. And we're hopeful that nothing else comes up, but that's part of the work that has to be done. It's at this point in time, we're about 6 or 7 days in from their visit to South Australia, so that's a good sign. But the problem with COVID is you're looking in the rearview mirror 14 days behind. So we're waiting to see if there's anyone that pops up with a positive COVID test as a result of some incidental contact with these individuals or having been in the same location.
There's no talk of a hard lockdown in South Australia right now, is there?
No, there's not. And can I just say this too? Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I respect that. But opinions that are formed with the benefit of hindsight goggles aren't terribly helpful. To suggest that the short introduction of restrictions that we had just a couple of weeks ago was pointless, I think is unfair and probably ill-informed. We had a situation where almost every state and territory in Australia was going into a lockdown, and we had a group of miners that came out of the Tanami mine that we believed had been exposed to the virus. So we introduced a very soft set of restrictions to slow things down in South Australia so we could get on top of it if it found its way here. At the time of doing that, we did not know about the miner who had returned to his family in South Australia. We didn't know that he was positive in the community. And as it turns out, he was. And as a result of his contact with his family, all of his family became infected with COVID. So, we were taking steps to be ready to deal with the COVID if it got in. It did get in, but because of the way the family handled their situation, we were very lucky. So this is a really challenging situation we're in, where if we act quickly, we're the subject of criticism for overreacting because nothing happened. But if we sit on our hands and wait and see how many positive cases we get, then we'll be criticised for not having done something more quickly to prevent people from getting sick and overwhelming our hospital system.
Do you feel like you're holding back the tide at the moment? I mean, when you sit down with Nicholas Burry and the Premier, is there a sense of inevitability about other outbreaks and lockdowns because of situations like in New South Wales and now Victoria?
I wouldn't say a sense of inevitability, but it certainly is. It does play on your mind that I'm acutely aware of what the impact of these restrictions, what they do for the community, how they affect individuals and families. It causes heartache, it causes economic hardship, people lose their jobs, businesses struggle. I know all of that, and I absolutely appreciate it. We don't want to go there, but when we look at what's happening in New South Wales, you do have some. I suppose you have to be pragmatic about this. The ability to stop every person from New South Wales potentially bringing the virus into South Australia is an impossible task, and we're doing as much as we can to minimise that risk.
Is there a need, do you think, Commissioner, then, to look at some of the laissez-faire arrangements as they currently stand with exempt workers? I mean, like removalists, for example. I mean, laissez-faire might be the wrong term.
Yeah.
Do we need to tighten it up a bit?
Look, we are continually reviewing the requirements for people who have to come into South Australia, and that's something we need to acknowledge, that even if we were to put in a hard border arrangement for, say, New South Wales, which we have at the moment, there are some people who still have to travel. We've made a national commitment that we're not going to inhibit freight movement across Australia because we need that to occur. And the circumstances of the removalists, we allow people who are genuinely relocating to South Australia to still come in, but they don't simply get to wander in at their own leisure. They have to basically go through a process with SA Health, verify with SA Health that they can relocate safely, that they are legitimately in a difficult situation, for example, having sold their house or quit a lease and they have nowhere to stay, they've bought a house in South Australia. We facilitate that, but they do so under a strict set of conditions that ensures that we're doing everything we can to protect South Australians. So essential travellers are critically assessed to make sure that they are absolutely essential, and while they're in South Australia, they must abide by strict conditions.
You made a comment yesterday with regard to QR code compliance. At Tail and Bend, there was a discrepancy between the number of check-ins and the number of credit card transactions that had taken place at the store, and called for people to do a better job of complying with the restrictions. Is there something that can be done on the other side too, with the ease of use of the app and helping people out in that way? A few people have texted this morning saying there are more convenient options in places like Queensland and the Northern Territory, where you can check in on behalf of a group of people or your family, and you don't have to have a lineup of people every time you travel with a group of four all having to sign in various places.
I have to say that the QR code check-in is I believe it's a minor inconvenience that we have to put up with at this point in time, because it provides critical information to our contact tracers. I also believe that South Australia, whilst we might have been late to the game when it came to QR codes, I think we've probably got the best, most comprehensive system.
Were we? It feels like we were ahead of the ball game.
We were getting some criticism earlier in the piece because other jurisdictions such as Victoria or New South Wales had QR codes, but they weren't a consistent whole of government. I think we took a little bit more time to get it right, and I think we've benefited from that. more businesses and activities in South Australia are required to have QR codes compared to anywhere else. So we have a pretty good system. It is an inconvenience, and I'm the first to acknowledge that. I've been frustrated myself, and I think I take more time to check into a place than I do actually doing the transactions, like if you're paying for petrol or something. But it's what we have to do at the moment. And yesterday was, I think, a good time to remind people that 1/3 of people going into a business premises checking in is really not good enough. We do have high levels of check-in activity, but every time we see a situation like this, it just reminds us that we're still vulnerable because time is critical. If we do have an outbreak, we have to get onto every single person that might have been exposed so we can get them tested, confirm they're negative, or put them into quarantine so that we limit the impact of the virus.
So no lockdown will be announced later today. Any further increase?
I promise you there is no lockdown being announced today.
Yep.
I can't promise that's not going to be something in the future, depending on what happens with the Delta strain.
Sure. What about restrictions today?
I haven't had a meeting with SA Health yet today. A couple of my team members are dealing with some health people at the moment. And I'm sure I'll be talking to the Chief Public Health Officer and the Chief Executive of Health. I'm hoping we don't, but it really is dependent on what the virus is doing and what the potential is for it to get into South Australia.
Police Commissioner Grant Stevens, thanks very much for joining us on 5AA Breakfast.
Pleasure, guys.
There you go.
24 minutes after 8, let's check traffic. Thanks to Air Conditioning Warehouse Sales. They've got Adelaide's biggest air conditioning brands and best prices. airwaresales.com.au.
In the city, got a crash and a traffic light malfunction at South Terrace and Morford Street. Richmond, traffic light malfunction, Richmond Road at Brooker Terrace. Black Forest, boom gates are stuck down at Cross Road and South Road. Erbray, Cross Road and Portrush Road, got a broken down truck on the side of the road. And at Lockleys, look out for a burst water main. That's at Sir Donald Bradburn Drive near the airport. Cameras, Grant Avenue, Turo Gardens and Fitzroy Terrace, North Adelaide. Your Hyundai dealer has stock available now, like the Hyundai Venue with auto transmission, now from just $25,990. Drive away. Limited time only. Test drive the Hyundai Venue today. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Rowi's Sport Show.
Breaking as we speak, Melbourne have had 7 new community transmissions. The MCG is an absolute hotspot. 2,000 odd people in one stand need to be tested. WA have closed their borders to Victoria. SA borders are open for now to Victoria, but for how long?
4 p.m. weekdays.
Now, Port v St Kilda, Marvel, Saturday night. That's the implication.
Rowi's Sport Show on 5AA.
G'day, Scotty Cam here. Winter time is DIY time and your local Mitre 10 has some great deals to get you going. Like a Yard Force 51cc chainsaw with an 18-inch bar and chain, only $129. Or get your plants ship shape with Earthcore Garden Potting Mix, 25 litres, any 4 for $24. And if you're warming up around the fire, grab a Spear & Jackson 2.7 kilo block splitter or 2 kilo axe, only $49 each. That's mighty helpful, Mitre 10. Catalogue out now.
Have you been to Wohlers lately? I'm Rachel Wohlers and I've always had a passion for homewares and giftware. I'd love to invite you to visit us and experience our range of fragrances, homewares, handbags, jewellery or that special gift. At Wohlers we have the names you love like Glasshouse, Campanero and Maxwell Williams. But I also enjoy discovering local Australian designers and artists. Experience Wohlers for yourself at Mount Barker, Richmond and Tanunda.
The new 5AA Player app lets you listen to all your favourite 5AA shows, news and podcasts wherever you go. Take David and Will on your morning walk. Listen to Pilco and one of his many guests while you tend your garden. Have a laugh at the shops with John Blake. And talk footy with Rowie, Stud and Treaders in your shed. The 5AA Player app lets you do all that and more. So download the app and take 5AA wherever you go.
The 5AA Player.
For most business PC brands, a 4-hour service guarantee means they'll call you back in 4 hours. But at Leader Computers, a 4-hour service guarantee on Leader's business range means they'll come to your worksite and have you back in business inside 4 hours. Leader Computers are local, made here in Adelaide with better service, better support and speedy turnaround times. Live life local. Live life Leader. Leader Computers. Find your local dealer at leadersystems.com.au.
You can trust 9 News is live and local. Weeknights at 5, nightly at 6. 9 News.
The new 5AA Player app lets you listen to all your favourite 5AA shows, news and podcasts wherever you go. Download it now from the App Store.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
28 minutes after 8. Time for Fuel Watch. See where the cheapest fuel is in an instant with the free My RAA app. You can download it today. Cheap fuel that we found for you this morning. $1.49 at the Caltex in Cavan on Cross Keys Road. $1.34 at the OTR on the corner of Findon Road and Woodville Road. $1.31 at the Coles Express on the corner of Tapley's Hill Road and Port Road. $1.38 at the Caltex Woolies on Prospect Road at Trigg Street, and $1.33 on Grand Junction Road at Rosewater. A few texts coming through on the Telstra Storm Outbacker text line as well.
That's right, we've got a whole bunch of them here. A lot of people are saying, what is the big drama with QR codes? Like this idea that they're a huge inconvenience. As Kay says, when I QR check in, I don't even stop walking.
Oh, that's my favourite QR code game is, can you do it without breaking stride?
Yeah, I pride myself on that. I get the camera turned on the moment I get out of the car.
Yeah.
About 10 steps into the old Drake's Foodland, and in one deft manoeuvre, right hand over the QR code, left hand into the black plastic shopping basket, and you're in.
Becomes an art form.
Yeah, it does. It's like, it should be an Olympic sport, shouldn't it? Checking in.
Well,
it should be part of the gymnastics. You got your ribbon. You got your rubber ball.
Yep.
You got your, one of those Matt Castanet type things they spin around, and then you got your QR code.
Oh, now you're talking.
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And it's a perfect 10.
Yeah. She excels in the QR code routine.
Hello, boys. Ian says, why have QR codes if they can check credit card data? I don't know. This is clamour to be surveilled by a lot of people. We had a call earlier saying, why can't we just ring the bank, get the mobile phone number, and then ring them up? It's like, people, how much government do we want?
Well, I think the situation is right now they can check QR code data if you give them the phone and your details to check your banking app. And if you don't, like one of the removalists hasn't, well, then you need the QR codes.
I think one of the takeouts, and the Commissioner himself in his typically candid way said they're always reviewing how they manage this. The fact that 1 out of 3 people at a regional servo that would have stacks of exempt travellers like truckies and so forth coming into our state from the east, maybe we need to put the foot to the floor in the same way that there's the big sign, at Pinaroo and places like that saying don't bring fruit into SA. Maybe part of the deal for entry for the time being needs to be, listen, here in SA, we use this app to check in.
Yep.
Because a lot of people from the eastern states, e.g. removalists, seem to be not getting that memo.
This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Showers increasing with a possible storm and 17 today. With the 8:30 news, I'm Mel Usher.
Woken with a stiff neck or sore back? Get a Physio Extra appointment today. 6 locations, physioextra.com.
We're being urged to keep using the QR code check-ins at every place we visit. It's been revealed there were only 25 check-ins at the Tail and Bend service station and adjoining cafe COVID exposure sites, but 76 credit card transactions. Police Commissioner Grant Stevens says QR codes are extremely important when it comes to contact tracing during a pandemic.
1/3 of people going into a business premises checking in is really not good enough. We do have high levels of check-in activity, but every time we see a situation like this, it just reminds us that we're still vulnerable because time is critical. If we do have an outbreak, we have to get onto every single person that might have been exposed so we can get them tested, confirm they're negative, or put them into quarantine so that we limit the impact of the virus.
There is a third COVID exposure site in Tail and Bend, the On The Run. Anyone who was there on Friday, July 9, between 7:20 and 8:15 in the morning is required to get tested and isolate. Victorians are waking up to tighter restrictions amid fears a fresh COVID outbreak could plunge Melbourne back into lockdown. Late last night, the Andrews government announced the return of mandatory mask rules for all indoor settings. Victoria has recorded no new local COVID cases overnight. The 10 reported happened in the past 24 hours. COVID-19 has hit the largest hospital in Sydney's southwest. A pregnant woman has tested positive a day after being treated in Liverpool Hospital. There have been 864 locally acquired cases in Sydney since a driver tested positive a month ago. New York businesses say their revenue is returning as the economy recovers from coronavirus. The city had been seeing thousands of cases per day during the height of the pandemic. It's now down to the hundreds. Restaurant owner Dylan Hales says they're in a much better position than they were at this time last year.
Our business is nearly back to pre-pandemic revenue. And the city has also extended the outdoor seating permits for an additional year, which will help as well going into next spring and summer as well. So it's looking positive at the moment.
A Ford Territory has slammed into a unit at Elizabeth Park. It went through the front wall of the Palmer Road home around 12:30 this morning. The collision causing significant damage to the house and a RAV4 parked in the driveway. Another parked car was hit by falling debris. Senior Constable Rebecca Stokes says it's amazing no one was seriously hurt.
There were 3 or 4 occupants in the house at the time, and fortunately they weren't injured during the incident, and neither was the driver. He's a 38-year-old Smithfield Plains man. He was arrested and charged with refusing breath analysis, driving disqualified and driving without due care, and he'll face court at a later date.
This year's Royal Adelaide Show will run a little differently thanks to COVID. A cap of $50,000 a day has been announced and people will have to pre-buy their tickets online. Rachel Talbot from the show says once inside, they'll have crowd management in place.
Around the rides and also through the main pavilions, where we'll have a traffic light system in our major pavilions, where if the system shows red, it means the pavilion's nearing capacity and maybe schedule something else and come back later, or if it's green, happy for everyone to come through.
The show will run from the 4th to the 12th of September. And a major legal victory for Britney Spears this morning. A Los Angeles judge has approved the singer's request to hire her own attorney in a bid to end her 13-year conservatorship. Spears told the court she wants her father charged with conservatorship abuse. Now turning to 5AA Sport.
Get $200 cash back on Bosch washer dryer packages at Adelaide Appliance Gallery, home of Mr Dishwasher.
And it's over to Tom Wren.
Thank you, Mel. The teams for Port Adelaide and St Kilda will be released ahead of their round 18 matches on Saturday night at Marvel Stadium later this afternoon. Squads will come out for the game between Adelaide and West Coast, which is being played on Sunday. Meantime, GWS, Sydney and the Western Bulldogs will all fly to Queensland this morning due to Melbourne's COVID outbreak. Hawthorn legend Shane Crawford has told Today they're watching nervously as the situation unfolds.
There's a lot of uncertainty at the moment, a lot of nervous AFL players because of what's happening, and just not sure what's going to unfold from here. But fingers are crossed. We're hoping the cases aren't going to be too bad, but it's not looking great.
Queensland has denied New South Wales its first Origin clean sweep in 21 years, the Maroons winning 20-18 in Game 3 on the Gold Coast. Ben Hunt's 2-try return for the Maroons inspired them to a pride-salvaging victory in the season finale. Captain Daly Cherry Evans says they demonstrated they won't be easy beats next year.
We showed ourselves that they're very beatable. I know they did a fantastic job the first 2 games. We've got to give them credit for that. But we showed tonight that we are a Queensland side that can take it to the Blues. So, like I said, they've won the series, but that was a blueprint right there on how to play an Origin game. It's a real credit to everyone involved this week.
Britain tennis player Dan Evans is the latest player to pull out of the Tokyo Olympics after testing positive to COVID. And the Matildas' final hit out before the Olympics has ended with a 1-0 loss to Japan. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now checking 5AA traffic.
Air Conditioning Warehouse Sales has Adelaide's biggest air conditioning brands and best prices. airwaresales.com.au.
At Para Hills West, got a 2-car smash Main North Road and Kesters Road. In the city, multiple traffic lights malfunctioning around the South Terrace and Whitmore Square area. Richmond, traffic light malfunctioning there as well. That's Richmond Road at Brooker Terrace and at Lockleys burst water main on Sir Donald Rabban Drive near the airport. Cameras on the drive-in this morning, Fitzroy Terrace, North Adelaide and Grant Road at Ranella. For tantalising tacos, just add some green gold. Australian avocados. Great taste, great value. For more recipe ideas, visit australianavocados.com.au. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Audi Solitaire, Metro Dealer of the Year. Visit audisolitaire.com.au.
Showers increasing, a possible storm 17 today. Showers and windy tomorrow 14 again Saturday. Right now it's 11. More news as it happens on 5AA.
How far would you go for your dream kitchen? And how far would you go to get free installation? How about 15 minutes up the freeway to Balhanna Kitchens by Design? 2. The largest showroom in the Adelaide Hills. Custom build your dream with our award-winning designers and get free installation on your cabinets with laminate benchtops. For a limited time, of course. Balhanna Kitchens by Design.
It's not too far to go to make your dream a reality. balhannakitchens.com.au. You might think having thousands of pals is excessive, but that's not what the team at Parafield Airport Liquor Store think, because that's how many they have. Sure, they might be made up of over 100 gins, over 200 whiskies, over 300 craft beers, and over 2,000 boutique wines. But they're some of the best pals you could have, and they're always looking for more, even if they are tricky to track down. Parafield Airport Liquor Store. Pals, next to Roulette's Tavern, Kings Road, Parafield.
The 8-seat Hyundai Palisade is our most spacious large SUV ever, boasting 16 cup holders and 7 USB ports for convenience. The Palisade is also loaded with advanced safety features like blind spot avoidance assist to help keep growing families safe. Your kidults will love it.
It's pretty good, I guess.
And for limited time, the Palisade comes with $3,000 of bonus genuine accessories. The Hyundai Palisade, kidult approved. Test drive the Palisade today. Offer won't last forever. Excludes Palisade Highlander. T's and C's apply.
Now, do you want more horsepower over spring? Well, then you'll be excited to hear the Bend have just released their spring motorsport calendar filled with exciting new and returning events.
This is exciting. The season will be launching with the Adelaide Classic Motoring Festival from August 28 to September 5. This comprises Malala's 60th anniversary, which is a celebration of motorsport and the history of the Malala racetrack. It features vintage and classic cars that have raced at the track over the past 60 years.
Yeah, this festival culminates with the Bend Classic, a super sprint event at the Bend Motorsport Park, open to all car enthusiasts and featuring some of the most exotic sports cars on the planet and a collection of historic F1 cars.
And look, that's only the beginning. For the full calendar of events and to find out more info or to buy tickets, visit thebend.com.au.
At Allianz, we're behind your small business. If you need public liability insurance and more, choose from a range of covers to suit your business. Get your insurance certificate of currency instantly. And if cash flow is important, pay by the month at no extra cost. Plus, you could save up to 15% on your first year's premium when you buy a new business insurance pack online. Go online or call today. Allianz, behind you for what's ahead. Any advice is general only. Eligibility criteria and minimum premiums apply. Go online or call for a PDS to see if Allianz is right for you.
The new FIVEaa Player app lets you listen to all your favourite FIVEaa shows, news and podcasts wherever you go. Download it now from the App Store.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
20 to 9, behind closed doors coming up in just a moment. We've also got another regional check-in with Jane Riley, thanks to Auto Masters, which means a chance for you to win a fantastic prize. That's coming up. I remember sitting in the Channel 10 newsroom with my former colleague, Brendan Shakes, when he got the news that he'd be covering the Tokyo Olympics. He'd be going over there and being a big part of it. I can't imagine the circumstances being quite these, where the first chat he's going to get to do on radio back here in Adelaide is less about the sport that's transpiring than what it is like living in Tokyo at the moment. Shakesy, good morning to you, mate. Thanks for joining us.
How are you guys? I'm well.
Now, Brendan, I was reminiscing at the start of the show. I was kissed on the backside by a rainbow in 1999, told that along with Phil Curry, Annabelle Crabb, a few other Adelaide journos, I'd be covering the Sydney Olympics. I reckon every night we're up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning at the Media Village, parties, beers, going around to events, eating out in restaurants, just meeting up with mates who are there from interstate to watch Kathy Freeman run. It sounds like it's going to be a pretty different experience there in Tokyo.
It's completely different. To put it into perspective, we've been driving from our hotel to the main press centre the past couple of days. You can't even tell that the Olympics are on. There's barely any signage around. There's not a lot to show that the Olympics are on. Even at the main press centre, there's a few minor signs, but even entering Haneda Airport here in Tokyo, very little fanfare. It's feels like just business as usual here.
So there's no public gatherings, there's no torch arrival parties, there's no crowds at all, are there?
Well, no. It's going to be a whole different ball game here. I mean, I've been stuck in my hotel in the main press centre. We're not allowed to go anywhere. We've been forced to test continually. I've just done my spit test for this morning, so that's gone all okay for now, but we've had to do temperature checks for the past couple of weeks. We're constantly hand sanitising. There's a lot of strict rules here at the moment.
So what's a spit test? So do they not do the old up the schnoz in Japan?
So before we left, we had to get 2 up the nose, and that's the ones that tickle you right in the back of the throat. So we had to get 2 of those done and have the negative test with certificates before we came. And then once we arrived at the airport, we went through about 6 or 8 different checkpoints showing the particular apps that they want us to have downloaded. And these apps are the ones that are monitoring our movement. We have to log into them every day to make sure that we are fit and well and under particular guidelines. But the spit test is literally just spit into a tube. We had to do that at the airport, which was quite hard after coming off a 9-hour flight and quite dry and dehydrated, and you're having to spit, I think, about 2 meals into a tube. There's no one watching you. It's up to yourself to do it. So it's all follow the guidelines how you will. So we've had to do 3 days of it so far, and we then lodge it off, and if we don't hear anything, it's all good news.
What about in terms of getting out and about? Like, can you go out to restaurants? Can you go out to bars? Is anything open?
We can't go anywhere. We, like I said, stuck in our hotel and the main press centre. We are allowed to go to a little Family Mart supermarket, which is about 20 metres away, and if we want to go, we have to log our time and our room number with a man who sits down there 24/7, and then we get 15 minutes, and that's it for the entire day. And once we come back, we can check it off, and that is it. So bars and restaurants here are closing up at 8 o'clock every night. Alcohol is pretty much limited in terms of bars and restaurants. So I've not been to a bar or a restaurant. It's very, very dire.
What about in terms of access to athletes? Have you been given any indication yet about whether there's going to be protocols surrounding doing interviews and things like that?
We'll be very lucky to see an athlete at all throughout the games. It's very unlikely we'll be able to get within a couple of metres. If we do, we'll be at once they've completed their event, and then they'll be available. But aside from that, we will probably be stuck on Zoom calls and speaking to the chef de Mission every day.
So when events are happening, and so the opening ceremony is happening, or the 100-metre freestyle final, Kyle Chalmers is in, you're going to be sitting in your hotel room watching on the TV, or can you go along? What access do you get to the actual things?
So we are allowed to go to particular locations. So before my team here in Network 10 left, we had to lodge where we wanted to go in the first 2 weeks here in Japan, and these were destinations approved by the Tokyo government. So, for instance, we can only go to Olympic venues. We can't go to any train stations, public transport. We can't go to Shibuya Crossing. We can't go anywhere where there's any public, pretty much. We'll knock back for everything. So after those 14 days, we are allowed to go to venues, but it's very restricted.
So what happens if we get, a trap shooter from country Victoria suddenly looks like a gold medal chance, and it was something that wasn't on the original itinerary? Is it going to be suddenly hard to cover those sorts of events that are where we have unpredictable and great storylines?
It'll be a little bit different to past Olympics. I mean, the AOC is trying to be very accommodating to everyone here, and I think everyone understands that this is going to be a games unlike any other. So it's a sort of a wait and see, to be fair. Hopefully we get to do those stories.
Well, mate, it's going to be an Olympic experience that's unique, and you're going to be able to have a lot of stories when you come home, I imagine. And I hope the room you're in is nice. Channel 10 have put you up so we're good, have they?
I've actually got the best room out of anyone in Network 10. I've got the biggest one for some reason, so I don't know how
I know why. You got the pulling power, Shakesy. It's always been the case. Hey, mate, all the best over there, and we'll chat with you again at some point, and hopefully we've got some sport to talk about.
Beautiful. Have a good day, guys.
Good on you, mate. Brendan Shakes for 10 News there in Tokyo,
bizarre,
covering the Olympics. It's it sounds like they're effectively in a bubble.
Yeah. Well, I mean, get back from the Olympics. Did you get out and about? Did you see much? Yeah, I went to the supermarket once a day for 15 minutes. It was terrific. I bought myself some dried squid.
Oh, wow. What a world we're currently living in. Let's check traffic thanks to Air Conditioning Warehouse Sales. They've got Adelaide's biggest air conditioning brands and best prices. Airwaresales.com.au.
At Elizabeth, got a 2-car smash at Elizabeth Way at Gillingham Road. Para Hills West, another collision there. 2 cars involved. Main North Road at Kester's Road. In the city, multiple traffic lights are malfunctioning around South Terrace and Whitmore Square. And at Lockleys, look out for a burst water main. Sir Donald Bradman Drive near the airport. Cameras on the drive in today. Grand Boulevard, Seaford, Grant Road, Ranella and Robe Terrace at North Adelaide. The census is coming this August. Look out for instructions on what to do. Visit census.abs.gov.au. Authorised by the Australian Bureau of Statistics, Canberra. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Building amazing homes is important to Beechwood Homes. And so is the environment. So when you build with Beechwood, you're building a better environment for our kids and grandkids. Around 70% of scrap materials from every Beechwood home is recycled. Bricks, rubble, timber, gyprock and steel, none of it goes to landfill. It's all sorted and recycled. So life really is good. It's even better in a Beechwood home. Take a look at the stunning Beechwood display home in Blackwood Park.
For over 36 years, Steinborner has been well worth the trip. With over 400 used cars to choose from, you're sure to find the car you're looking for. Steinborner is your first choice for new Hyundai and Mitsubishi in the Barossa, and your first choice for Ford in Clare. And don't forget, you can always click through the collection of vehicles online at steinborner.com.au. Great local deals on great local cars from your locals. Steinborner Automotive. Still well worth the trip, or well worth the click.
Now, the Barossa Valley, home to some of the world's best wines, but it's also home to some of the world's best chocolate. Coming out of the Barossa Valley Chocolate Company.
This is excellent. It's local, artisan, handmade, everything you want out of good quality chocolate. They have a true community spirit as well, collaborating with other locals like Barossa Gin and Cider and Adelaide Hills Honey.
And look, it's well worth a visit because it's a chocolate lover's delight. And they've got this amazing 14-metre window where you can watch the chocolatiers crafting all kinds of delectable treats. Plus, there's also workshops and experiences so you can learn about the intricacies of all things chocolate.
You can't forget their cafe either. Open for morning tea, Wednesday to Friday from 10 a.m. Now open for breakfast from 9 a.m. on the weekends. So whether you're after brekkie, morning tea, lunch, or even just some sweet treats, make sure you visit the Barossa Valley Chocolate Company.
Start at Sip and Save and get snuggly in style this winter because Cooper's Ugly Jumpers are back. Simply buy any 3 cases of participating Cooper's beer and redeem your ugly jumper in store. There are 3 designs to collect, but be quick. These Cooper's Ugly Jumpers are exclusive to Sip and Save and are only available while stocks last. Terms and conditions apply. Go to sipandsave.com.au for details. Get your very own 2021 Cooper's Ugly Jumper when you start at Sip and Save.
Hi, Bronte Manuel from Toop and Toop. There's been plenty of publicity about the strength of the Adelaide property market recently, and there's no signs of it slowing down anytime soon. We're still experiencing extraordinary demand for homes at all price points, with many properties selling quickly and for prices well beyond vendor expectations. With fewer homes on the market, demand is outweighing supply, and that's resulted in many outstanding results. If you'd like to know how much your home is worth in the current market, go to toop.com.au.
You can trust 9 News is live and local. Weeknights at 5, nightly at 6. 9 News.
The new FIVEaa Player app lets you listen to all your favourite FIVEaa shows, news and podcasts wherever you go. Download it now from the App Store.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
Speaking as that woman with the lovely voice just was about the 5AA Player app. Now, I'm a bit of a Luddite. I'm a bit of a technophobe.
And proud of it.
Proud of it. I like the fact that I have to get my children to do pretty much everything that involves my phone. Not so this morning, Will. Before the show, when I spare 60 seconds after our exhaustive planning, I downloaded the app. And those of you who've used the old web-based version, which had the little play button up the top, where when you and I were on air gibbering on, or when you want to listen to KG and Cornsey on Saturday, this new app is a hell of a lot more streamlined, and it's a piece of cake to download it. All you got to do is put in an email address, remember a password. If someone as technologically dumb as me can do it, there's nothing to stop anyone else to do it. And I'm holding it up now for the benefit of the live stream folks. It's got all the shows across the bottom. If you want to do catch-up stuff, like Conversations with Cornsey, or if you are busy of an afternoon and you miss the sports show, you can go back and play it all. But the really cool thing, podcasts are massive now. And, we've spoken to guys like Hedley Thomas, who did The Teacher's Pet. The good thing is, because it's networked through Nova and a lot of the News Corp news sites as well, you can get like Sean's
Just Lawful.
There's a little podcast thing down here, and if you've got a spare hour, you can just hit play on anything you want, whether it's true crime or lifestyle stuff.
Fantastic.
So there you go. That's my free plug.
Simple as
on
that.
behalf of someone who knows nothing about
It was so easy, even David could do it.
That's right.
That's the motto.
So get into it, folks. And it's a lot easier to use than the old one.
All right, let's find out where Jane Riley's been on her regional tour, unending regional tour, thanks to Automasters. She's covered every square inch of South Australia.
Yep.
It's all thanks to Automasters. If it's time for that regional road trip, get there and back safely. Call 1300 Automasters. Find out where she is today.
We're heading north today to the Barossa Valley Chocolate Company just outside Tanunda. I'm catching up with Chris Day. Chris, this is one of my favourite locations in the Barossa Valley. I've been there a couple of times just to see the chocolate being made and the wonderful chocolate that you can purchase afterwards.
Well, thanks, Jane. I'm really pleased to be here again. I love coming into FIVEaa. I've done it a few times in my life, and the people in here are fantastic, and it's great to talk to you today.
Tell me about the Barossa Valley Chocolate Company. How did it all start?
We created our little business of Chocolate Ventures, and then Chocolate Ventures built that beautiful facility that you've been to, and we opened in March 2019.
And it's been a roaring success. Families love visiting there. I love going there because you sit on the big man-made lake that you built. You've got the ducks out there. There's something for the whole family when they visit.
Well, that's exactly what we've tried to do. Our tagline is fun for all the family.
From the moment you walk in, the first thing you see is that waterfall of chocolate, and then you can actually see the chocolates being made by hand.
Well, that was a key to what we were doing. We literally built 14 metres long glass walls at a very low height. So whether you're 3 years old or you're 83 years old, you can look at the chocolatiers making their chocolates. But we make sure there's always something going on so people can see that it's artisan chocolate. It's not made in a big factory. It's made there by Australian chocolatiers, because our principles are everything should be owned by Australians, made by Australians, and grown by Australians.
It's not just chocolate. It's not just a great cafe, but there's an ice creamery as well.
Absolutely. We've got gelati and all the flavours and natural essences from the chocolate to everything else. It also goes into our milkshakes as well. So the ice cream is a very important part of what we're doing.
Look, what a wonderful combination. The beautiful Barossa Valley, chocolates and a little bit of wine, and a great location for the whole family. Just outside Tanunda, you go through Tanunda, it's just to the north and off to the left. Very easy to find, a must visit in the beautiful Barossa Valley.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jane, for having us.
And if you call in right now on 8223 0055, we'll give the first caller through a premium Barossa Valley Chocolate Company hamper and a bottle of Vineyard Road's signature sparkling Barossa Valley Grenache Rosé. How about that?
Oh, yum.
Yep, that's what
I reckon
get.
Blakey's going to do a sketch within the next few days. Jane Riley's regional tour of Tail and Bend service stations.
Now there's an idea. I like that. Let's go behind closed doors. Speaking of Blakey, thanks to Aussie Fast Transport Solutions, interstate freight distribution, warehousing and local Adelaide couriers, call Aussie Fast 13 13 64.
And when we get behind closed
13.95. Adelaide's 5AA. Talking Adelaide sport. This is the Saturday Sport Show. KG and Cornsey.
Welcome back, folks, to the Saturday Sports Show. Graham Corns with you, and the legend of South Australian sport, KG Cunningham. You didn't want to interrupt me there, Ken, and tell me you're not a legend.
No. I didn't suddenly. I finally realised that I am a legend whether I like it or not.
Yes, very good. Coming up to 10 o'clock, and Graham Goodings isn't with us today. He's been filling in for Leon Biner, so we won't have Graham's oration after the news as we usually do.
Oration, yes.
Yes, the word is oration, but we say oration because one of us got it wrong once upon a time.
Yes, one of us did.
But of course, it doesn't matter who's doing the news. We still get them to do a 10 o'clock oration.
Yes, we do.
If it's Michaela Kamarik or Kerry Turner or Mel Usher or anybody, we get them to prepare something.
Yes, doesn't make any sense, Stud.
No, it doesn't.
They might not have any pressing issues that they want to scream about.
No, that's right. And in fact, it's a giant slap in the face for Graham Goodings.
Yes, it is, Stud. It's a huge F you, Goodings. Anybody can do this.
It's treating Graham Goodings with total disrespect.
Yes, it is.
Because it all started when Graham had a beef with something and was so good at articulating it that we decided to keep it as a regular segment.
That's right, Studley.
But that doesn't mean everybody can do it.
No, that's right. It's like saying that Mick Jagger is off sick, so let's put Graham Corns in as lead singer for the Rolling Stones.
Yes.
You can only be Mick Jagger if you were born Mick Jagger.
Yes, that's right.
In fact, if any band in the world needed a lead singer, the last person they would get would be Graham Corns.
I think we're veering off the subject slightly.
In fact, if the Rolling Stones needed a lead singer, they would be better off getting Mel Usher than Graham Corns.
Yes, thank you.
Got the moves like Cornsey.
I don't think Dad takes it personally.
You don't?
Are
you sure?
You get the segment filled. I mean, I haven't asked him. Maybe he does. Maybe he worded Blakey up.
Well, he didn't get a whole 3 hours to himself, though, didn't he?
He did. He did a lot of oration.
Yeah. That is a word, isn't it?
2 to 9.
Sounds like
Get more at Mawson Lakes Volkswagen with great deals on demos right across the range, all ready to drive away. And if you're impressed with our selection of cars, you'll love our service department with next day servicing, complimentary loan cars and breakfast or lunch on us. Why? Because when you're Adelaide's newest Volkswagen dealer, you want to give more. Visit mawsonlakesvw.com.au to see the range online. Mawson Lakes Volkswagen, just a short drive from the city.
We're on a mission to inform people about how the right type of care or in-house support can change older people's lives for the better. At our Changing Lives event, you'll learn more about the ins and outs of Adelaide's care and living options for seniors. Join us on the 21st of July at Gaines Park Suites in Jocelyn. This event could change your life. Book today for this free COVID-safe event at gainespark.com.au. That's gainespark.com.au.
When people walk through the doors at Pals, the first thing they say is wow. Not only because of the size and the selection, but also because of the team. Sam and Jamie have tasted every drop. They and their team can recommend a whiskey that's just as good as that hard-to-find Japanese one, if they don't have it, that is. Or a beautiful red that's reminiscent of that outstanding cellar door you once travelled so far to visit. Parafield Airport Liquor Store. Pals, next to Roulette's Tavern, Kings Road, Parafield.
A COVID-19 vaccine is your best defence and our only way forward. Now's the time to arm yourself, your family, your friends, your workmates, your community, someone you love. Find out when you can arm yourself and book your vaccination. Go to australia.gov.au or call 1800 020 080. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
The new FIVEaa Player app lets you listen to all your favourite FIVEaa shows, news and podcasts wherever you go. Download it now from the App Store.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
Right on 9 o'clock, Leon Biner is coming up in just a moment. And we'll catch you tomorrow morning from 6.
See you then for Metro Friday.